Eagle. Bonnie Cameron's off today. Bethany Markham sitting in the studio with her. There's Brian. He's right over there. Tell us about his. Well, I better not. I was going to repeat what you said, but
She's not up.
He's got a stalker. Brian's got a stalker.
No, my friend reported to me last night that Mark Begich was at the fire tap.
Oh yeah.
And everybody talked politics, and she was bored.
Who was she with him?
No, she was just there. I guess he stole the show from her or something.
Was she? But she was at his table.
No.
Well, how could she hear what they were talking about?
Her table was talking politics because Begich was there, and she was bored by the conversation.
Who was Begich with?
She didn't say, and she wouldn't know probably.
No,
I'm surprised she knew him. I guess it must be the TV commercials.
569-1080 is our number. We're broadcasting on KOAN, KVNT, streaming live on danfagan.us, video and audio. We've got Matt Clayman coming up tomorrow, who's going to debate Anand Dubé. And then today we have Kathy Giesel, who will be debating
Harry
Crawford. That's coming up later. A lot of reaction on Facebook yesterday on Mark Begich's appearance here yesterday. Him not answering the question of whether a baby inside a mother's womb is a life. I looked at it and I thought, gosh, I should have got at that so differently, because the reason that's such an important point, I understand people who say, yes, a baby inside a mother's womb is not a life. Let's squash it out. Let's squash it like a bug. Let's remove it like a big old nasty tumor. It's not a life. If that's what you've come to conclude, then you are justifiable in your position. I'm not saying you're right, but at least it adds some justification. Mm-hmm. But if you say it is a life, but I think it should be destroyed, that's just not justifiable.
It's not conscionable at all.
It isn't. It's just, and especially since the vast majority of abortions are done for convenience sake. They don't want to go through the inconvenience of carrying the baby to term. So that's the main reason I thought it was very important that Mr. Begich answered the question, and he's smart enough to know that either way he loses there, because everybody knows the baby's alive. Everybody knows the baby's alive. You got to have one of the hardest stone cold hearts on the planet to convince yourself that little baby, when you in the sonogram and the ultrasound, you hear boom boom, boom boom, boom boom. You see the baby kick. You see the baby suck his or her thumb. The baby has its own DNA. You cannot deny that's a life.
Well, he was talking about the science himself.
Yeah. So it was hard to hear. It was hard to hear, to be honest with you.
I thought he first of all, you don't win a debate with Mark Begich at the time. You only win it after the fact, and it's because you point out the things that he said that are not true. So he said that Harry Reid has run the Senate, basically like other people. that is a Republican talking point, also known as it's false, that Harry Reid has not shut down debate. He had one example. The one example that he brought up was a farm bill, which was totally controlled. They had decided on which amendments were going to be put forward. It was not an open amendment. It was not an open debate. They do not hold open debates in our Senate. They have not since Harry Reid has become. And so what you have to realize is, of course, the 1.2 or 1.4 trillion, I pointed out right at the time, Mark Begich lied on that. I'm pointing out today that Mark Begich is not telling the truth, that he has open debates, that Harry Reid allows for open debate on the floor of the Senate. Mark Begich is wrong on that. The Republican, quote, talking point is correct. On privacy issues, Mark Begich is not a champion of privacy, in my mind, because he's not an offsetting force to this president, who's the greatest threat to privacy that our country has ever seen, because there's no media check on his power.
Right. It's like what you pointed out. He hasn't done anything about it. He's saying how much he hates the surveillance state, but what has he done? What has he been able to do?
Exactly. And he's not an offset. The media is an offset to a Republican. If George Bush had tried to use the NSA in the current way that it is, you know who would be researching it? The media. It wouldn't be Edward Snowden. It wouldn't be, gee, this is a real problem. And Cheryl Atkins's story would be played on every single broadcast, on every single a show that you see. Everyone would know that Cheryl Atkinson, who's a CBS reporter, turned against the president, wanted Benghazi information to come out. Didn't turn against him, but wanted the truth to come out. And her computer was hacked, The NSA was constantly monitoring every keystroke that she did. They planted information on her computer. And look, no one would put up with this, but nobody knows about it.
Right.
So there's no check on the power of these organizations when there's a Democrat as president.
That's amazing that you brought that up this morning, because I had a experience this morning when I got up and I get on my computer and I'm looking at things. And there was a story in the Anchorage Daily News basically defending Bill Walker for making millions of dollars from the Port Authority and the city of Valdez. It was the reporter was acting as though he was Walker's attorney and trying to explain to people why this is right what Bill Walker did. And it just struck me like a ton of bricks. What chance do we have with the Alaska Dispatch News out there? What chance do we have? Most people get their news from this organization. Most TV stations follow the lead of the Alaska Dispatch News. And I thought to myself, why even try? We can't combat this. These people have no shame anymore. They don't care about the truth. They don't care that they're biased. They don't care that people think that they're biased.
But you pointed out to me, I think just yesterday, that we can combat it because we have new media, and it's becoming ADN and those sorts of types of media are becoming less and less relevant.
I agree, and here's the thing: we can win this fight, but it's going to be hard. It's going to be tough
and long.
And the weak need, the I'm not going to vote for Dan Sullivan because he's not perfect, pussies. I don't want to hear from them. If you want to quit, then quit. Stop talking to us. Stay out of our movement. Don't bother us. Mark Fish, you're irrelevant to me. You're useless. You've given up. All these people who aren't going to vote Tuesday because it's hard. It hurts. Our side lost. Brian said it the other day. 2008, our side lost. 2012, our side lost. So many people fell to the wayside. Oh, it's hard. It hurts so bad. I'm not going to try anymore. I don't want to get involved anymore. We've got to. If you have a child, if you have a niece, if you have anybody you care about.
If you like your job, if you like your health care.
If you like your house.
If you like your house.
569-1080, 569-1080. Pete, you're on.
Hey, good morning.
Morning.
I just had a quick comment on abortion there. I think we've kind of switched over. I mean, I'm pro-life, and I know most of the pro-life people try to explain that it is a life inside the womb. But I read an interesting article yesterday on post-birth abortions, and they did a poll in colleges, and I forget the percentage, but a pretty large percentage are all for post-birth abortions up to about age 4 or 5.
Goodness.
I saw that. It wasn't the majority, but it was a percentage that shocked you.
Yeah, so I think the argument really is, from their point of view, is that is it a viable life? I mean, we've switched over from a pro-life movement, so really we need to start thinking about euthanasia. Why is life actually valuable to begin with? I think we have to start explaining that, unfortunately, but I think that's really where we're going pretty quick. And there's a lot of other countries, Holland and other places, that are already doing euthanasia, and it's becoming a problem for them because too many people are killing themselves, basically.
Well, this is a really surprising, and it should surprise a lot of people how different the utilitarian, really, the left is becoming. And we've all read books about this, so we were all sort of hip to it. The 1984s, the Brave New Worlds, Animal Farm. You read books about this kind of stuff, and you think that could never happen. People totally get that these human beings are such valuable things. They're infinitely valuable. They have all this capability and all this promise, and you just can't take a person's life. So this is on Drudge, by the way. The College Fix is the paper that it comes from. Trending, more college students support post-birth abortions. They're not talking about a day after, by the way. They're talking about 4 or 5-year-olds.
Yeah, basically when they're self-aware is what I remember them talking about, and I think they're trying to make that argument on the elderly side too. If you lose self-awareness, somehow that defines your humanity. I don't know why, but
it's the pro-death culture, Pete.
Yep.
And that's logical. Why, if you're going to kill a baby 3 months before she's born or 3 years after she's born, there's no inconsistency there. It's death.
Is the child wanted?
Death is death.
Planned
629.
Parenthood. Child wanted.
Death is death. 629.
With KOAN News, I'm Chuck White. 4 Alaska National Guard members are suing the U.S. Army, and Kent explains why.
The lawsuit filed in federal court in Washington, D.C. claims that investigative and other records about them were improperly leaked to both state officials and the media. It seeks unspecified damages for humiliation, embarrassment, and loss of promotional potential. Their attorney says they were targeted as part of a smear campaign.
The Matsu-Boro School District has allowed military recruiters back on campus. Both Matsu and Anchorage temporarily banned recruiters after allegations of inappropriate behavior, such as offering students alcohol. Well, Matsu officials have met with recruiters and are now allowing them back. Finally, the Republican Governors Association is pouring $1.3 million into Governor Parnell's campaign its last 2 days before Tuesday's election. That's your Hot Talk News update. Local weather is next.
Partial sunshine for today, high 29. For tonight, partial clouds and cold, the low going down to 12. Mostly cloudy skies with some snow, little to no accumulation on Friday, high 30. Tomorrow night, low 23. Saturday, periods of snow, 1 to 3 inches can accumulate, high 35. Hot Talk, breaking news, and the latest weather, KOAN 95.1 FM and 1080 AM.
Glen Biegel, you have beautiful teeth.
Why, thank you, Dan Fagan. That's because my family and I have gone to Dr. Dan Kiley for years.
I get scared at the dentist.
Dr. Kiley knows people like you are afraid, so he creates a relaxed atmosphere at his office. People actually like going to the dentist for Dr. Kiley.
I know it's important to have good dental health.
And you look better with good teeth. And Dr. Kiley offers cosmetic dentistry along with general care.
Visit Dr. Dan Kiley at lakeotisdental.com. Call him at 562-9209.
Mia Costello, Lance Pruitt, and Kathy Giesel haven't served that long in Juneau, but they have got it figured out. Junkets? Kathy Giesel has spent $80,000 on travel. Booyah, taxpayers! Taking care of donors? Costello, Pruitt, and Giesel supported the new LIO with a sole source contract that increases rent 5 times over current rates. Let Pruitt do it to us again. And having it both ways, Costello, Pruitt, and Giesel want to take money from your neighborhood schools and give it to private and religious ones instead. All the while saying they are pro-education. Sweet, huh? Yep, Costello, Pruitt, and Giesel have it figured out. Do you? This notice to voters is required by Alaska law. We certify this ad is not authorized, paid for, or approved by the candidate. This ad paid for by Putting Alaskans First Committee. Top contributors are Alaska AFL-CIO, UA Local 375 PAC, and PSEA PAC.
Oh, it's a big weekend at Noosegayan City Market when the live Dungeness crab come in from southeast Alaska. And Noosegayan City Market have just received a big boatload. Nice big dungies, sweet and juicy in the big crab tanks at Noosegayan City Market. Pick the one you want, and our loincloth-clad crab divers will rustle them out of the tank for you. What a show that is. These crab are only $9.99 a pound, and both stores will cook them for you in their big crab cookers if you wish. Also special in the seafood departments at Noosegayan City Market, fresh handmade Hawaiian-style poke, marinated and spiced fish, just like you get in the islands. Fresh today in the seafood departments, Noosegayan City Market, Hawaiian-style poke, $9.99 a pound. The butcher shops at Noosegayan City Market are featuring big, tasty pork chops. They come in the big family pack, and they are only $3.49 a pound. They go fine in the barbecue, too. And another big shipment of fresh, Washington-grown Honeycrisp apples now in the produce departments at Noosegayan City Market. Sweet and ripe Honeycrisp apples, just $1.99 a pound. Noosegayan Midtown and City Market, 13th and I.
This is Congressman Don Young, and I approve this message.
When my husband says something insensitive, we have a family discussion. It can get intense. When Congressman Young says something insensitive, his family is the entire state of Alaska. None of us are perfect, and strong words are sometimes used at inappropriate times. But you know what? Don Young is my congressman, and I'm proud of him more often than not. These are intense times. when it comes to national security, resource development, transportation, fisheries, education, healthcare. Don Young has come through for Alaska again and again. No member of Congress has gotten more important legislation passed than our Don Young. So as you vote on November 4th, I'd ask you to remember one thing. Don Young puts Alaska first, each and every day. I'm sticking with the Congressman for all Alaska, Don Young.
If you're ready for the movies, there's just one place to go. Check out moviesacre.com. It's showtime, movie time, previews and more. Get tickets, win stuff. Lots of information to explore. Great restaurants. Now you'll know just where to go. Before and after every show. Check out moviesacre.com. It's showtime.
Do you know Lynn Gaddis?
Yeah, I know Lynn Gaddis. Drove a 570cc sled to the peak of McKinley in a gall-dang blizzard.
Hey, I never did that.
I heard Lynn Gaddis skinned a rabbit with her teeth in 10 seconds flat.
That never happened.
I heard that Lynn Gaddis fights for conservative principles in state government.
Well, that's true. I'm Lynn Gaddis. I love to hunt and fish, and yes, I love to ride snow machines. But what I really love is making life better for my friends and neighbors in Wasilla by bringing common sense and conservative values to Juneau. I believe in a sustainable budget. I believe in regulatory reform and resource development. And I believe in school choice and parental rights. I'm Lynn Gaddis, and I'd appreciate your vote to keep skinning some rabbits in the state legislature.
I knew it!
Just kidding.
Paid for by committee to elect Lynn Gaddis, 1650 North Shoreline Drive, 99654.
You're on with Fagan and Biegel in the morning. Give him a call.
6:36 on a Thursday morning, October 30th, 2014. Dan Fagan, Glen Biegel here. Bonnie Cameron's out. Bethany Markham's filling in for her today while she's in Hawaii. We're on KOAN, KVNT, streaming live, video and audio on danfagan.us.
Dan, you said something that was pretty surprising the other day.
Okay.
You do not dress up for Halloween.
I do not.
Have you ever?
No.
Why is that surprising? I don't either.
You've never dressed up for Halloween?
Oh, I did when I was a kid.
Okay.
Oh,
right.
yeah, as a kid.
Oh, okay.
As a kid.
I thought you may have never. Now, have any of you dressed up as a clown?
No.
For Halloween?
No.
I dressed up as a clown. That was our one suit. You know, we're in a huge family, and we did not have a lot of options. So I had to dress up as a clown with a whole bunch of pillows inside the outfit. I was a fat clown.
I've dressed as Santa Claus for
Christmas?
For TV stations.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, like every time. For some odd reason, they picked me to be Santa Claus. And I went out to
any facial hair at all.
I went out to Bush, Alaska one time as Santa Claus, and it was one of the most surreal experiences I've ever seen. Because, you know, in rural Alaska, there just aren't a lot of non-villagers come to the village.
That's true.
And to have someone who's a superstar like Santa Claus, and these kids, you know, I don't know the age cutoff where they did believe and didn't believe, but the ones who believed, they were just absolutely blown away that Santa Claus was in their village.
Was going to come to their village, yeah.
And they honestly thought I was Santa Claus. And the photographer I worked with, he was very talented, Peter, and you know he did the whole story, and they all showing all the kids are so excited. I'm giving out the presents, and then there's one little sound clip at the end of the story. He's got a native kid about 7 years old. He goes, "That looks like Dan Fagan." And that's the whole story.
Oh, what a
great!
We're gonna try that again this year.
Yeah, so he ratted me out. And I've done that for just about every TV station I've ever worked for. I'm always.
Why not do it for the radio too?
Yeah, no.
I don't know that dressing up like Santa Claus for Halloween. Is that legal? Could you?
Hey, that's a good idea. I like that one.
Could you do that?
I actually did dress for Santa Claus one other time that I'm thinking about. There was a gal who gave me a coffee mug. We had a Secret Santa thing at KFQD, and everybody had to buy everybody a gift. And this was one of the sales guys. I didn't know who it was, and I Sam Anita brought me the gift, and it was a coffee mug. Well, I don't drink coffee. I don't really drink tea. So I kind of gave it a hard time. I said, "This
I
is
kind of remember that on the show.
Inappropriate.
where's the rest of the
Of the gift, yeah.
Is there another part here? Is,
Something that matters to me.
Yeah.
Basically, you harassed the woman
Well, no,
on
I
air
didn't know
or
it was.
whoever it was
For giving him something.
Right.
for giving you something.
But I didn't
Yeah.
know who it was.
Well, yeah, I mean, at the time it didn't matter. It was painful to listen to.
Well, it turns out the gal was absolutely devastated.
Oh, I bet.
I'm talking to the point of tears. And all the women in the other side of the building where the salespeople were, they hated you. When I walked in there, they treated me like you evil, horrible,
Good for them.
disgusting human
exactly.
being. And this girl, I mean, she literally started crying as I was saying this. On the air.
Oh, Dan.
Yeah, I know.
So...
This is horrible. So all the sales gal, who's, by the way, was responsible for making me a ton of money.
Yeah, I was
going to
say selling ads for your show.
Right. They said, well, I don't know if I'm going to sell your show now. I mean, they were really mad at me. And so I said, I got them all together. I said, what can I do to make it right? And the gal who gave me the mug, the lousy stinky coffee mug.
He's still doing it.
She wouldn't even meet with me. She was so mad.
Good for her.
So they said, we'll talk to her.
Grudge.
Her name, she lives in Dallas now, this gal, by the way.
Oh, you've actually followed her career.
No, she's actually a Facebook friend because it has a happy ending. So they got with her and said, what can we do to rectify the situation? And she said, this is December, mind you. She said, I want Dan to dress up like Santa Claus, and I want him to stand there with a board on both sides that says Dan Fagan has forgotten this real spirit of Christmas. And I want you to do it from 2 to 12 noon to 2 in the afternoon on Northern Lights and the New Sword Highway, right in front of the Sears building, right there in the corner.
What was your reaction
I
to
did
that?
it.
You actually did it.
I stood out there for 2 hours, dressing like Santa Claus, just waving. And it said my name big on the board. Dan Fagan had forgotten.
Spirit.
I have a picture of it.
Oh, my God.
I'm thinking you should dress up as the Grinch.
Well, it should have. I should have. And she was fine. She couldn't believe it. She was so excited. She came up and hugged me. Oh, you're such a wonderful person.
Made it all better.
Yeah, we're
One
all
good
going to
deed.
dress up tomorrow, right?
No, I'm not. I don't dress up.
I'll bring you candy.
No, I'm not. Did you hear what I said? I'm dieting. I'm losing weight. You can bring me candy. You're
Moderation.
the devil.
Moderation.
No candy.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's the other time I dressed up, I suppose.
Well, there are a lot of evil clown sightings apparently going on around the country.
Is that what brought up the clown costume?
I like
thing?
that.
I
That's
was like,
kind of
that
what
came out
sort
of
of
nowhere.
tied it
I was
in,
like,
yeah. Well, the fact that Dan had said that he doesn't ever dress up for Halloween,
Yeah, but
I thought he
why
might
clown?
not have. Why?
I don't think
why do
of
people
clowns
dress
as
up
being
clowns?
Halloweenish. I don't know.
They're scary, especially when they have orange hair.
I think of it as being
Big
circus.
smiles.
Red hair.
Red hair?
Yeah.
I've got this really creepy clown mask, and I put it in the back of my car, facing out of the back seat, so it looks out the back
You're
window.
mean.
And
You may be more mean than Dan Fagan.
sometimes, I like when I get to the Sullivan Arena early and I'm sitting there waiting, people will be walking by the back of the car and freak out. It's
Can
so
you turn
fun.
its head at all?
No,
you
I can't
should
move
totally set it up so that you can, as people are looking at it, you can turn its
Move
head
the head
slightly
slowly.
towards
That
them.
would be fun.
Oh, yeah.
I love freaking people out. That's fun.
I don't really like Halloween. As a kid, I loved it, obviously. I just don't like the concept of sending kids out to go get free candy.
Well, I don't like the fact that it has kind of an evil historical
The
basis.
ghoulish,
Yeah,
demonic.
it's-
I don't.
I don't like scary.
It's bigger than Christmas now.
Well, I was noticing that. I've been doing a lot of door knocking,
Yeah.
and I cannot believe
Yeah.
how many people have their houses completely decked out for Halloween.
And
People who don't do it for Christmas.
If I may get prudish for a minute.
Prudish?
Yeah, I think
What
that's
does
a
that mean?
reflection of our culture. Well, the way away from our Judeo-Christian values.
I tell you
I was wondering that.
Yeah.
When I lived in Utah, that I was surprised. Halloween, everyone over the top for
The
Halloween.
Mormons are okay with
in
Halloween.
Utah.
So you
Yeah.
can't have a Coke, but you can dress up like a demon.
It was
isn't
insane.
that weird?
I've never seen such a display. Yeah.
Don't you
I
dare
don't
drink
get
that
it.
cup of coffee, but go ahead and dress up like Lucifer.
I am perfectly comfortable in my religious views in celebrating Halloween and sending in my capitalist views and sending my children out to loot essentially the rich parts of town.
You can bring them to my house. I
I-
will provide candy.
I'm not saying that you're not a good
Right,
Christian
right, yeah.
if you dress up for Halloween. That's not what I'm saying. It's just the idea that Halloween's now almost bigger than Christmas is a reflection, I think, of the shift in the culture from really a religious community to a secular community. That's
No,
all.
I agree with that. Yeah.
569-1080. Dan Fagan, Glen Biegel, KOAN, KVNT, streaming live, danfagan.us. Big debate coming up between Kathy Giesel and Harry Crawford. Stay with us.
Five, 1080 KOAN.
This is Dr. Ellenberg. Are you tired of taking medications? Do your medications create more side effects than solutions? Do you want more than 15 minutes with your doctor? If you answer yes to those questions, you should consider calling the Ellenberg Center for Natural Medicine. At our center, we take the time to listen and focus on finding the cause of your health problems. Whether you have a cold, high blood pressure, diabetes, or cancer, we can help. Call the Ellenberg Center for Natural Medicine at 563-2366 or visit us online at drellenberg.com. We can help.
Harry Crawford looks to be...
That's it. Your time is up.
I'm Senator Kathy Giesel. It's time to set the record straight. Only in an election year would you hear someone paint a $52 million funding increase as a cut in education funding. Only in an election year would you hear that a $2 billion cut was actually a budget increase. Only in an election year would you hear someone claim they work hard to keep your energy bills low. All the while, Harry Crawford's first vote on the Chugach Electric Board was to vote himself a raise. It's reflective of a candidate who has no record of accomplishments, no ideas, and no desire to serve you. Alaskans deserve better than that. I'm Senator Kathy Giesel, and I'll continue to do the hard work necessary to improve education outcomes, keep energy costs low, and make sure generations of Alaskans will have the jobs they need. That's my no-nonsense promise to you. Paid for by re-elect Senator Kathy Giesel, Anchorage.
Here's my good friend, Keith Monternock.
Automotive repairs can be frustrating. Let me help. Call 349-1637. I have been in business for nearly 20 years at the same location. Specialty Truck and Auto is in South Anchorage behind the Long Branch Saloon where Diamond becomes Abbott. I have 6 ASE certified technicians working from 7 a.m. until 6 p.m. Monday through Friday. I have a voucher for any of the 6 Alaska Laser Wash locations for each customer. If you schedule ahead and need a ride when you drop your vehicle off, I may be able to help. Call Specialty Truck and Auto, 349-1637.
Mark Begich's campaign is a little sad. Begich can't run on his failed record, so he's launched false, vicious attacks. Independent fact-checkers call Begich's attacks some of the most dishonest and inflammatory of the year. Why did Begich sink so low? Because for 6 years, he's been a rubber stamp for Barack Obama, voting for Obama's agenda 97% of the time. Begich voted for Obamacare, wasteful spending, and trillions in debt. He stood by while Obama's overzealous EPA hurt Alaska jobs and families. And Begich has promised to fight for Anwar? After 6 years, no results. 6 years ago, we gave Mark Begich a chance. He gave us Obama's agenda and now a shameful campaign. Alaskans expect better of our leaders. It's time to make a change. American Crossroads, paid for and is responsible for the content of this advertising. Not authorized by any candidate or candidates committee. www.americancrossroads.org.
As a young person growing up in Alaska, I spent a lot of time in remote cabins and camps. And one of the values instilled in me was to leave the place better than the way I found it. I feel a responsibility as an Alaskan to leave the state better than the way I found it. My name is Marty McGee. I'm running for State House in the Sand Lake area, House Seat 22. I've lived my life in Alaska, and it's time to give something back to the community. I think people are beginning to feel like government is working against them and that the legislature belongs to somebody else. And I want them to feel like they're not excluded from the process, that they're included and they're heard. The direction I've seen the state going in concerns me very much. You know, it motivates me to get off the couch and not complain about the issue, but to try to be part of the solution.
This communication paid for by Marty McGee for State House.
Hot Talk KOAN, man. You're on with Fagan and Biegel. 1080 KOAN.
649, Dan Fagan, Glen Biegel on KOAN, KVNT. streaming on danfagan.us. Our number, 569-1080. 569-1080. Harry Crawford, Kathy Giesel. Two different people you will not, more different people you will not find. And not only personality-wise, tempo-wise, intensity-wise, and worldview-wise. Kathy is like a buzzsaw, but she's a conservative. She loves the free market. Harry Crawford's like a good old boy sitting on the porch with a straw in his mouth, talking about, hunting and fishing or something. But yet he doesn't believe the market. He believes unions should run things. So it'll be interesting. It'll be a good debate. We're gonna have some fun. So you want to retract something? Do we have a correction?
Well, I think so. I thought it was a good correction because I made the point here several times, and you and I actually got into it about whether or not Parnell was a good or a bad politician. I thought he's a great man. I think he's done good things in office, but he's just terrible as a politician. He does not make his case. On and on and on. So, but somebody told me yesterday. He said, it's not that he's a bad politician because politicians, when they do things that they say they're going to do and they actually lose vote, makes them a good politician. Not, Begich is a great politician. In some ways, you say, well, he's a good politician because he stays bought, right?
Well, I think you have to define politician.
Is union
what's
people.
A good one? What's a bad
But here was the correction. Correction was,
but before we do that,
he's not a good campaigner.
Okay.
It doesn't have anything to do with political. It has to do with his campaigning skills and what he thinks his job is when he's campaigning.
Let me ask you this: Can you be a?
So I thought it was great. Correction.
Can you be a good governor and bad politician?
That's a very good question. Yeah.
I don't know. I'd have to think about it.
I think you can.
I think it's absolutely.
I think so
to me,
too.
a campaigner and politician is the same thing. You could be like I thought Frank Murkowski was a great governor.
He was. He did.
He was
at the time.
Great governor. No. You're right. But looking back at what he accomplished, the way he brought the producers together, what he did with cutting budgets, I thought he was a great governor. He was a horrid politician / campaigner.
Mm-hmm.
The worst we'll ever see. And he got killed by a populist, the greatest politician of our time, Sarah Palin.
Mm-hmm.
It was literally the worst politician versus the greatest politician. Sarah Palin's the worst governor we ever had, but she's the greatest politician we've ever had.
Yeah, there's definitely different skill sets.
They're just, and Parnell is a great governor. Look at his record. Look at what this man has done. Look at the things he's fixed. He's not a good campaigner, politician. He's not. But a governor, incredible. And, so you look at history and you say, so what's going to happen? I don't think Bill Walker's a very good campaigner. But
he doesn't come off. He doesn't energize people, but his people are energized. So they're getting their energy from somewhere else.
It's because his skill is face to face. He is charismatic in person. People come away thinking he is the nicest, greatest man they've ever met. Person to person. But campaigning, I agree.
That's a great point, though. His followers are so rabid.
Mm-hmm.
They were out on the corner of New Seward and Benson and Northern Lights. I mean, on like 5 different corners. And Myron, what's the guy's name? One of the Backbone people. I don't know, but he was out there. There's a whole bunch of people recognizable and all on the left. And you're watching these people, but they're just so excited about it, they can't stay home. They got to let people know. And Parnell is signed not to be seen.
Well, the Matsu Business Alliance, which is putting on this luncheon tomorrow between the governor's candidates and the lieutenant governor's candidates, and Amanda Coyne and I are moderated it, they said that when the Walker people would call for tickets, they were very rude. They were very forceful. They said, we want more tickets. We want more.
Oh, really?
I mean, yeah, just very, they're union people.
Oh, okay.
And she said they were a little worried that they're going to get this crazy Rutgers crowd in there. But she said they've sold a ton of Parnell tickets, too.
Okay. Well, it's a very close thing to try and figure out how to combat unionism because their paychecks are, if your paycheck was tied to your political power, just think about what a motivating factor that would be.
You said it better than anyone I've ever heard when talking about unions. The union person has the mentality of it's us against them. We're the good guys, they're the bad guys. And that causes you to be more animated, to be more abrasive, to be more vitriolic.
It's funny you say that because I was talking with someone recently about this whole AO-37 thing, and they said, I've always had a good view of the police, and I've loved our public safety officers, but they said, this particular issue, as it's been, bubbling to the top here, that this person said to me, has made me start resenting our public safety officials, seeing how they've been acting in this. That that's actually changed their view of them.
Yeah,
So it
claiming
goes right
that
along with
there's some issue of safety for having 3 people on a fire truck versus 4, like every other town in the entire country. 4 people on a fire truck does not make the public more safe. It doesn't make firefighters more safe. And the idea that our public officials do not care whether or not our public safety people are safe either.
And this is why
all of it offensive. It's just so crazy to listen to. And I agree. Here's the one thing that the union folks did not realize. They had something to lose. And if
the
they
respect of the public.
That's exactly right. If as people learn that, wait a minute, we're paying you how much? It's $150,000 on average paying benefits for every policeman? Come on. We don't have to pay that. We've never paid that in our entire history. We don't have to pay that today. You get $150,000 not because we love you, but because you are politically active and you are hiring your bosses. That's the only reason. And so what they don't realize, what they've never realized, and they will come to realize, I believe, over the next 5 years, as our pay continues to decline, as Obamacare,
the private sector pay,
as Obamacare erodes our benefit systems, as Obamacare raises the prices for everything, you will come to understand that you did have something to lose by not listening to the voice of reason, and AO 37 is utterly reasonable. You cannot have a 5-year contract in the middle of the worst recession in history that any of us have lived through. You can't. You are not allowed to. That is totally unconscionable. That is outrageous. And so what they're going to find out, whether they win this vote or not, because they probably will win this vote. You need to vote yes on AO 37. Flip your ballot over and vote yes. But if they do win this vote, they're going to continue this tirade, which I think people are starting to see through, and I had the same reaction. I was at Costco, and there are some firefighters, people we would love. We love these people. They're our protectors. They're the people who are putting their lives on the line. However often they do have to do that. But we can't afford to pay you $150,000, $160,000. I'm sorry. Maybe we would like to, and no, it's not a safety issue if you want 4 people on a fire truck. That is not a safety issue, and no, we're not going down to 1 person on a fire truck because of your paranoia about politicians that you hate. Well, you don't have the right to make these arguments and then at the end of the day say, now you have to respect us.
Right. Still have that same level of respect.
Losing that respect is something that they never understood, and they will come to understand as we get poorer and they get richer. As we can't elect our bosses and they can't elect their bosses, they will come to understand that we don't have to respect people who do that. And they will lose the respect of the public. And that's one of the really dangerous things that's going on here, because our respect for authority things that binds us together as a good society. But unions will break that.
It's the rule of law, essentially.
Unions will break that. Unions don't care. Unions want pay. They want benefits. They want control over the system. They want to schedule themselves. They want 4 people on a fire truck, even though that hurts safety for everyone else.
And just so you know, the 4 people on a fire truck thing, in some places, apparently it is, we still do it, and it's very good, like in Eagle River and places. So it's not like we're not doing it. It's just that we're only doing it where we really need to do it, as opposed to just everywhere.
It's a scheduling thing. We decide what
exactly.
the best way to do it is. That's the way it works.
569-1080 if you'd like to join in on the broadcast. 569-1080. Where the hell's our phone system? I thought they were going to do that yesterday.
I put in a request.
It's in hell.
Didn't
It is
Robbins
in
act
hell.
like what?
Once it arrives, it
Call
takes
hell.
another 6 months.
It's already here. It's here.
It's been here.
It's been 6 months.
Yeah, I know.
Call
it's
hell.
been 4
I think
months
the
since
phone
it's been
system
here.
actually is
I mean,
there.
I didn't even think to call JR because I figured it'd just be installed.
Yeah.
What's the deal?
I talked to Jeremy. I told him.
What'd they say?
Said he would tell him.
We can take calls, but we've got this really nice phone system we need to install. 658.
And did my own research.
Yeah, what did you find?
Well, I found I really like Dan Sullivan.
Well, I know he served in the Marines for 20 years, and he'll fight against President Obama and Democrats in Washington to protect my Second Amendment rights.
And did you know when he was our Attorney General, he worked to put an end to violence against women, constitutionality of Alaska's Parental Notification Initiative Act, and
sued the federal government to stop Obamacare.
I like that. What else you got?
Well, as a veteran himself, he's dedicated to fixing the problems plaguing Obama's VA, and he'll fight to ensure they get all the benefits they've earned.
Dan Sullivan. I'm sold.
Me too.
Dan Sullivan, a principled leader for Alaska. Dan Sullivan for U.S. Senate. Paid for by Allen West Guardian Fund, which is responsible for the content of this advertising. AllenWestGuardianFund.com. Not authorized by any candidate or candidate.
You're listening to Hot Talk, KOAN, Anchorage, AM 1080, and retranslated on 95.1 FM on K236CG, Anchorage.
Fox News Radio. I'm Dave Anthony. She left her home like she said she would. And you're hearing the media out of breath running to catch up with Casey Hickox in Maine, where the nurse who is not sick with Ebola is sick of being quarantined. Fox News Radio's Tanya J. Powers has more live.
It's a lovely day for a bike ride, Dave. Casey Hickox demonstrated this morning this as the state of Maine is trying to get a court order to keep her indoors.
They will not allow me to leave my house and have any interaction with the public, even though I am completely healthy and symptom-free.
Hickox and her boyfriend were followed by a state trooper during their ride today. They can't detain her without a judge's order. The 21-day incubation period for her ends on November 10th, and she says she'll still keep fighting that quarantine, Dave.
Now, Tanya, the U.S. airstrikes continue today and also yesterday in Kobani, the Syrian border town, where ISIS militants keep trying to take control from Kurdish fighters who did get some help. Some Iraqi fighters crossed into the town as reinforcements last night. The economy cooled off a little over the summer. Fox News Radio's Rachel Sutherland has details live in Washington.
Dave, the economy is growing, but not as fast as it did in the second quarter of the year. The gross domestic product expanded at a rate of 3.5% in the third quarter, down from the second quarter's robust 4.6%. Still, the numbers beat Wall Street expectations and round out the strongest six-month period of growth in more than a decade. Jobless claims went up last week to 287,000, but remain near a 14-year low. Dave?
Tanya, on Wall Street, the Dow keeps moving higher. It's up 130 points, though the NASDAQ is down by 12. Winds of a price war are blowing just in time for the holiday shopping season. The Wall Street Journal reports Walmart is considering matching prices online to rival competitors like Amazon. Walmart's already been doing that in some U.S. cities, matching if the local store sells something cheaper. Fox News, fair and balanced.
You've been thinking about switching to solar. Don't wait much longer or you'll miss out on this year's federal tax credit. Move quickly because the tide is turning. Solar power is becoming a threat to big energy profits. In fact, some power companies are even pushing for extra fees to make up for lost revenue. Warning, you must have your solar system up and running by midnight December 31st or you'll miss out on this year's federal tax credit. Energy prices are expected to increase by as much as 40% in the near future. Go solar now with no down payment, interest, or payments for a whole year. You can afford it because we finance. Get your government money and save big every month. Big Energy is getting nervous and the door of opportunity is about to slam shut. Paying $150 a month or more on energy bills? Then call 1-800-MySolar now for a free in-home assessment. 1-800-MySolar.
My home, my savings, 1-800-MySolar.
Is your IT department burdened with first-line support calls about printer jams and broken printers? Are individual departments purchasing expensive printer cartridges that get buried in office supply budgets? Is your printer support strategy really a printer replacement plan? Let Alaska Enterprise show you how to reduce those high print costs. AES is a Xerox professional agency in Alaska with Xerox's worldwide support behind them. You can reach us at aesalaska.com or 561-5100.
November 4th, Anchorage voters will have an opportunity to support firefighters, police, and other public workers by voting no on Muni Proposition 1, repealing AO 37.
Your Anchorage firefighters and police urge you to vote no.
Vote no to keep Anchorage Emergency Medical Services the best in the nation.
Vote no to make sure your 911 calls are answered quickly.
Vote no to keep Anchorage and Eagle River fire stations fully staffed.
Vote no to prevent politicians from making our critical safety decisions.
Vote no to keep firefighters and police officers safe while protecting the city.
Vote no to support Anchorage police officers, firefighters, and other city workers.
This message is paid for by Repeal 37 and approved by former Police Chief Walt Monaghan and former Fire Chief Craig Goodrich chairs. Top 3 contributors are APDEA, Anchorage Firefighters, and AFSCME International.
Anchorage police officers, firefighters, and other city workers thank the citizens of Anchorage for their support in repealing AO 37.
Vote no!
Alaska's Energy, America's Values, paid for and is responsible for the content of this advertising. Not authorized by any candidate or candidates committee. EnergyandValues.com. Mark Begich is unbelievable.
Washington thinks it knows what's best for Alaska, and that's what I'm fighting against every day.
Fighting? Begich voted for all Obama's appointments, like Sally Jewell as Secretary of the said no to exploration in Anwar and no to a King Cove Road. Begich didn't fight Washington. He rolled over, like he rolled over for Obamacare. Now Begich is trying to duck and hide on Obamacare, on oil taxes, on cap and trade, on the IRS scandal, even on Anwar. How can you deliver Anwar, Mark, when Harry Reid says a Democrat-controlled Senate will never allow an Anwar vote? Alaskans can't trust a thing Begich says. It's time to replace Malarkey Mark with U.S. Senator Dan Sullivan.
Hello, this is Forrest Dunbar, and I'm running for U.S. Congress. You might know me as that run, Forrest, run guy, and that's okay. I try not to take myself too seriously. But the issues facing Alaska are serious. It's a problem that our current representative has so many ethics violations because that has cost Alaska our influence in Washington, D.C. Alaska needs more ethical and effective representation. My name is Forrest Dunbar. I approve this message, and I'm asking for your vote in November. Thank you, and God bless.
Paid for by Friends of Forrest Dunbar.
You're on with Fagan and Biegel on Hot Talk KOAN and online at 1080KOAN.
Dan Fagan, Glen Biegel, broadcasting on KOAN, KVNT, streaming live, danfagan.us. Our good friend Mike Daniels over at the Country Financial, he's the guy who can help you get to your retirement and have a worry-free retirement. He's got a huge team working up here in Alaska, 13 different locations, 13 different Country Financial locations, 5 in the Valley, 5 out in Anchorage. Go see a country representative, and you'll be glad you did. You'll learn so much. You'll obtain the skills you need to make the most of your money.
We had that lunch with him, Dan, and
Yeah.
I'll tell you, everything that flows out of his mouth, you're just thinking, gosh, that's so important for people to know. That's so important for people to know. It's amazing.
Brilliant guy. His number 866-COUNTRY, 866-COUNTRY. Country spelled
COUNTRY. Bonnie, I love you.
All right, our number 569-1080. Rhonda Boyles is with the she's president of the Alaska Federation of Republican Women. Here's what she writes. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. In 2006, our Republican women's group helped elect Sarah Palin as governor. We admit that we got burned. If Alaskans follow Sarah Palin again, there's only one place that can lead, back to the chaos and dysfunction that characterized her 18 months as governor. Sean Parnell came into office on the ruby red high heels of that bizarre, drama-filled chapter in our state's history. He quietly took charge and began the messy business of actually governing. The dysfunction dissipated and Alaska settled into a new normal minus the media circus. Sarah needs to claim victory in Alaska to assure continued lucrative contracts with Fox News and other media outlets. She's back in the news, telling a Washington reporter she hopes to run for office someday soon, and she's supporting her good friend Bill Walker, who's just like her. Bill Walker skipped the 2014 August primary when the Democratic Party met and decided they couldn't win and their legitimate primary nominee. They formed an unholy alliance with Walker, a man whose political positions and core values do not match up with theirs. Let's not allow history to repeat itself this time. Let's really take a stand and truly put Alaska first. Vote Sean Parnell for governor on November 4th. Beth, you got a thought on that?
Dan, you're evil.
Thank you.
He takes that as a compliment. Mm-hmm. I just think that there are a lot of people in the country, a lot of Republican women. I know I'm involved with some Republican women who are very
You travel
active.
a lot. You know a lot of these conservative Tea Party groups.
Well, I'm involved with some folks who are very active in the Republican Party back east, in Virginia and the D.C. area and everything, and going to all the different various conservative conferences and such. There are a lot of people around the country who have respect for what Sarah Palin is saying, her words, the values that she talks about, those kinds of things. They don't have the background or the history of what she has or hasn't done during her governance time here in Alaska. And so I just think it's one of those things that, it's going to turn those people off to Alaska Republican women, perhaps. And so But
what's the effect on Alaska? Because I get that. I hear what you're saying. And, there's a national aspect. There's a cohesion aspect to the Republican Party. But honestly, we're in the midst of a very big decision here. I don't think most people, by the way, think we're in the midst of a very big decision. I think they think, vote one way, one way, vote the other way. And so it's no big deal. She's pointing out, look, this is a big deal. We don't want to go back. She sees dysfunction in Walker, very similar. And
she being Rhonda Boyles.
And I've been hearing more and more about this.
But I don't think that Palin has that much influence. I don't think her endorsement of Bill Walker really does much for Bill Walker in the state, personally, because her history is known here.
So what you're saying is that there isn't going to be much effect from her endorsement here locally, but then there also wouldn't be much backlash from this disendorsement.
You're talking about two different things, though.
Sarah
You're talking about the effect statewide versus the effect
Okay,
nationally.
so you have a concern that I don't think most people either understand or have, and that is what goes on with the Republican Party on the national side, and what do they think about Sarah Palin?
Women's clubs and the Republican activists who
what do I care
oftentimes are
about?
the backbone.
Exactly. What do we care about what the Republican Party Women's
In
Coffee
Iowa.
Club in Iowa thinks of us up here in our Republican
And I'm not saying you don't have a good answer for this. You have a very good answer.
Well, she hasn't answered it yet.
Okay.
What do they care?
Well, they care
What do we
because
care? No, what do we care?
Well, it's not so much what they think about our clubs and such up here, but it's about they continue to have faith in the Republican brand because of the fact that they see this infighting and the fact that, one of the most prominent Republican women in the country is being bashed by the very people who elected her.
Have we ever had a governor who's governed more to the left than Sarah Palin?
I'm not talking at all about Sarah Palin's record. I'm not defending it at all. I mean,
have we ever had a governor who's governed more to the left than Sarah Palin?
You're going to try to do the same thing with me. Okay, Bonnie, here we go.
Yes or no?
I have not folled history.
Do you
know
believe
that
Governor Palin was a good governor?
I do not think she was probably one of the best governors. No.
Do you think she was a good governor?
I'll be honest. I haven't studied her record well enough to know. I don't. What I know, I don't know a lot because
she was an awful governor.
I didn't even start following politics until after she was
caused
done.
Alaska to miss out on the boom that the rest of North America got in the oil industry.
Yeah, that's what I've heard.
Because she went to war with the oil industry.
Yeah, no, I've heard that.
She was destructive on so many levels. We will never have a governor any worse than her.
But I'm not defending
Why
her.
would we cover that up? Because a bunch of women in Savannah, Georgia, think well of us.
I'm not
Why
saying we should
wouldn't
cover
we
it up.
shout to the nation, hey, look what this woman did to our state. Look at her approval ratings here. Do not base your opinion on Sarah Palin on the soft questions Sean Hannity gives her every night. Look at her record.
There are a lot of people who are activated in this movement and care about this movement because of what Sarah Palin says and does every day. Not her history or what she actually did when she governed, but because of the words that she says and what she does every day. And those people, when they drop out of the movement, that's a loss for the movement. That is my concern.
So those people are only in it for personality reasons.
Perhaps, but
It's like-
I don't
it's like
care.
when you have a-
I don't care if that's why they're in it.
It's
If
like-
they're making a difference.
It's like when you have a church of 6,000 people and the pastor gets caught cheating on his wife, the 6,000 people no longer go to church.
And if
Were they ever really followers in the first place?
Who's to say what's in their heart? That's not for you
Well,
to say.
I can say. If you're going to church because of the personality, if you're involved in a movement because of a personality, you're not going to stick through the tough times.
Yeah, disagree. I mean, if you can have very strong feelings about, whatever the issue is, Christ or whatever in your heart, and you can become discouraged and lose hope because of the fact that people that you respected have been discredited.
That's my whole point. But you never were in the movement in the first place. You were there because of Sarah Palin. You idolized her.
No, but these are people knocking on doors, making phone calls, doing good things
And
for
you
the
think
cause.
they're going to quit because
Oh,
we reveal Sarah
I-
Palin was the worst governor in the history of Alaska?
I know some of them will quit. I mean, I'm not, if it gets blown up bigger than this, I don't think it's going to get a whole lot of play, to be honest. But if it did,
basically what she's calling for, Bethany, is to keep hush hush.
No,
Don't
I'm
let
not
people know
saying
that
that.
Sarah ruined our state.
Well, Bethany is involved in the Republican Party far more than you and I are. And so she's
But I
got
don't really think this is a party thing. This is
much
about the
deeper
activists
concerns.
who aren't even
And it's about conservatism. Let me ask a few things, because
you're saying we'll lose people in the movement if they understand who Sarah Palin really is. That's your main point.
No, that's not what I'm saying.
What are you saying?
I'm saying that if we try to demonize her, considering what she's doing today and the things she's saying today, and if we're trying to demonize her, then they see it as demonizing those things which they believe in, those values and principles that she talks about.
And they'll fall off the movement.
They may very well get discouraged enough to. Yeah, I mean, I think some of them will.
So do not talk about her record
That's
as
not
governor.
what I'm saying, Dan.
Well, that's all Rhonda's doing. That's all Rhonda Bowles is doing. And you're saying she
Brian
shouldn't do
says
it.
we have to go to break.
Let's stay with us. 7:14.
Sweet and juicy in the big crab tanks at Noosa City Market. Pick the one you want, and our loincloth-clad crab divers will rustle them out of the tank for you. What a show that is. These crab are only $9.99 a pound, and both stores will cook them for you in their big crab cookers if you wish. Also special in the seafood departments at Noosa City Market, fresh handmade Hawaiian-style poke, marinated in spiced fish, just like you get in the islands. Fresh today in the seafood departments, Noosa City Market, Hawaiian-style poke, $9.99 a pound. The butcher shops at Noosa City Market are featuring big, tasty pork chops. They come in the big family pack, and they are only $3.49 a pound. They go fine in the barbecue, too. And another big shipment of fresh, Washington-grown Honeycrisp apples now in the produce departments at Noosa City Market. Sweet and ripe Honeycrisp apples, just $1.99 a pound. Noosa, Midtown, and City Market, 13th and I.
I'm Mark Begich, running for U.S. Senate, and I approve this message. Paid for by Alaskans for Baggage.
Who will protect your privacy rights in the U.S. Senate? Dan Sullivan worked for Condoleezza Rice, one of the architects of the surveillance state. She's in Sullivan's TV ads because he helped implement her agenda that threatens Alaskans' liberty, like extending the Patriot Act that allows the government unlimited access to your personal records. And when Sullivan was with the National Security Council, the NSA authorized warrantless wiretaps of U.S. citizens. Sullivan is bankrolled by the billionaire Koch brothers who have been manipulating the oil. And Sullivan even opposes the Stand Your Ground law that allows you to defend yourself in your own home. Only 2 candidates oppose the Patriot Act and NSA wiretapping and support Stand Your Ground. And that's Mark Begich and Libertarian Mark Fish. True Alaskans fighting the Dan Sullivan surveillance state.
Just a short drive from wherever you are.
Get your tickets now for the Connect Country Liquor Holiday Wine Tasting. There are only a limited number of tickets available, so you can enjoy a relaxed atmosphere and taste a multitude of fabulous wines. It's the 16th annual Connect Country Liquor Holiday Wine Tasting at Evangelos, Saturday, November 8th from 7 till 9. This premier Valley event kicks off the holiday season. You'll have the opportunity to buy your favorites at drastic savings, but on that night only. Advance purchase is necessary. No tickets at the door. Get them now at any one of our 4 convenient, locally owned and operated tax-free locations. This event is black tie optional. The 16th annual Connect Country Liquor Holiday Wine Tasting at Evangelos, Saturday, November 8th.
Keeping the valley in good spirits, yeah. Connect Country Liquor, oh yeah. KKL.
Alaskans know Governor Sean Parnell is an honest man who keeps his word and cares deeply about Alaskans. But what do we know about? We know Walker championed wild schemes for 30 years that accomplished nothing for Alaska. We know Walker was paid millions by the city of Valdez to stop any gas line that didn't go there. We know Walker said he'd stop Governor Parnell's gas pipeline. We know Walker sued to stop Point Thompson. We know Walker said all options are on the table for new revenue, which means new taxes on Alaskans. Governor John Parnell has worked to put Alaska's economy on the right track. Walker wants to be governor so badly, he's writing checks Alaskans will pay for. Re-elect Governor Sean Parnell. Paid for by Parnell Sullivan 2014 for Alaska's future.
You're on with Fagan and Biegel in the morning on the Talk of the Valley, KVNT.
Dan Fagan, Glen Biegel here on KOAN, KVNT, streaming live, video and audio on danfagan.us. Our number 569-1080. Bethany, Markham from Bonnie Cameron. Glenn, you brought up a point, and we're talking about Sarah Palin and Rhonda Boyles with the Republican Women's Club saying that don't get duped again. We voted for Sarah the first time it was a disaster. Bill Walker's just another Sarah. You brought up the point, and I got to disclose right off the bat. I have a one of the things that I struggle with in life is not hating Sarah Palin and having forgiveness in my heart toward her. It's very difficult for me. I know I have to walk in forgiveness if I want to be forgiven, and it's unhealthy to not forgive. And so I do struggle with that, and I go back and forth, and I actually had gotten to the point where I thought, maybe there is hope for Governor Palin. She fell under the spell of the left with Galvin and Rutherford, and she basically went to war with the oil industry. And I thought, well, that's just in the past. She's now on the national stage making a difference. But then to see her continue to embrace this war with the oil industry and to embrace Bill Walker and his anti-oil ways, and then to act as though she was betrayed because Sean Parnell cleaned up her mess, it really made me think, okay, there really might not be any hope for her. I will amend my position one more time. There's always hope for everybody. Everybody can change. Anybody can reach their destiny. Anybody can live out what they were supposed to live out in this life. But there comes a point where, okay, I'm starting to lose hope.
I don't understand your thoughts on forgiveness at all.
Okay.
And this is why. A person's policy positions are not things that you forget.
No. She hurt me personally.
No, but you keep mixing these things up. Look, the fact that she's supporting Bill Walker doesn't mean that I have unforgiveness in my heart because I disagree with her, and I want to bring up the fact that I
do have unforgiveness.
Well, look, you're confusing everyone else.
Well,
I can disagree with her policy positions, and I will, and I don't feel bad about it.
And if that's all I was doing, then that would be fine.
Okay, but this is so this is so inside baseball. People do not get any of that. What they hear is, if you support Bill Walker, I have a moral problem with you, and I need to forgive you.
No, you're right.
That's what they hear.
Okay, let me talk.
Okay,
that's a pretty strong accusation. I agree with you. I don't want to confuse people. You can get really angry at Sarah Palin because she's ruining our state and supporting people who want to ruin our state. But she hurt me personally.
Yes.
And I know I've hurt her personally, and that's in the mix for me.
Yes.
I knew her.
Yes.
I had a relationship with her.
Right.
We were close friends at one point.
But
so
again,
please let me finish since you brought the accusation. Every time I talk about her and think about her, that stirs up again. And what you're saying is I need to clarify that for the audience, and I agree.
Yeah. But I also don't understand why it is that because she's supporting Bill Walker, who is kind of a clone of Sarah Palin's as far as the oil industry goes.
They're identical twins.
That's becoming more and more clear, and he's worse, by the way, on unions.
Yes.
Bill Walker is worse
That's what I've heard.
than Sarah Palin
I've
on
heard that.
unions, on the union issue, and Vince Beltrami is at the core and heart of this, so he actually could very well be
Vince Beltrami
worse.
was standing to Sarah Palin's right when they signed the GIA. I don't think the unions lost any power under Palin.
Yeah, but she wasn't cozy with them.
They had a
as
project
far as,
labor agreement in the GIA.
Yes, and
she never stood up to unions at any
right.
point.
And Bill Walker promises, by the way, he'll do project labor agreements.
course.
He's not going to fight the NEA. The school system will remain just like it is.
Yeah.
Anyway, but again, we get back to the forgiveness.
Right.
Sarah Palin can, because you and her had a personal relationship, the forgiveness needs to happen at a personal level through something that she's done wrong to you and something you did wrong to her. But every time you talk about her, you're talking about her in a policy, in a policy form. There's no
You just
purpose.
repeated yourself. Do you have a new point here?
There's no purpose of forgiveness there at all.
Right, I understand, but I just addressed that.
But so this is not about forgiveness.
No, I'm telling you that because I had this friendship with her that was very important to me, every time she as a person enters my mind, there are unforgiveness temptations that arise in me.
From a personal issue that you had with her, not on policy.
But her decision making stirs up that unforgiveness. Because I was mad at her because she hurt me, and yes, I hurt her, but I was also enraged with her because how she ruined our state. That just absolutely infuriated me.
But you're trying to forgive her for ruining the state?
And the way that she lied about it, and the way that she uses people and throws them under the bus, and she doesn't have an honest bone in her body. So you're just hearing this unforgiveness completely spewed out of my dark heart right now. And I don't know how to deal with the issue other than do full disclosure and say, ladies and gentlemen, take what I'm saying when I evaluate Sarah Palin with a grain of salt, because I have some very strong. Well, you talk about vow. You know, I've got some of that in me.
Yeah.
And I don't want it to be there.
Yeah.
I want to be able to evaluate. Like with Mark Begich, I don't have that. I personally like Mark Begich. I think he's a good dad. I think he's a good wife or husband. I think he's a decent man. He has a very different worldview that causes him to do things that cause great harm to our country. But I personally like him. I like Harry Crawford.
And you don't have to forgive him for having bad policy
and
positions.
my analysis of Mark Begich is not based on bitterness.
Yeah.
It's based on my worldview.
Okay.
And I'm telling the audience, when you hear me talk about Sarah Palin, keep in mind that there are things that I will probably say about her that are not justifiable simply because I have such an anger problem toward her, and I'm still struggling with bitterness in my heart for her.
Okay. Well, I hope what people get out of this is people's policy positions are not a factor for you to forgive. They're
I
not
agree with
something
that.
you should forget. Anytime we talk about forgiveness, that's about a moral problem.
Right.
You forgive people for doing something immoral. And that has very little to do with policy. And when you do abuse people, which Sarah Palin did on many, many occasions, and it really was unconscionable, those are things for which she should try and be forgiven, and that you could consider whether or not she's changed, you know, and whether or not she's corrected those problems.
You cannot walk around with unforgiveness in your heart towards Barack Obama. Even though
I don't think of any of these people at all, which is what I'm trying to get to. Is you have this view where policies and people.
Glenn, you repeated that 7 times.
Okay.
No, only with Sarah.
Okay.
I don't I cannot tell you how much destruction and devastation Barack Obama has brought to this country. But I have no bitterness in my heart toward him.
Yes.
But I want people to know that when I'm talking about Sarah Palin, realize that there are things in my heart that shouldn't be there that are influencing me when I talk about her. I'm disclosing that.
Okay. All right. Well, as long as it doesn't cross the policy boundaries, which I don't want to repeat myself again. I just don't want people to be confused that we're not trying to forgive. We're not called to forgive Sarah Palin's policy positions and what she did to the state. Those are not issues upon which we seek forgiveness, or I suggest people. We just disagree with them, and it's up to us. It's our responsibility as citizens
Do me a favor.
call these up.
Repeat that one more time. That will get 9 in 1 second.
Well, look, I really think that this was helpful for people because I think people are very.
It was actually helpful.
I didn't know that there was a personal.
Yeah.
And so
problem
you probably were confused by it. Too.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, good. Look,
don't repeat it again.
I'm not going to repeat it again. I'm glad we went
I hear
through
what
it.
you're saying.
I'm glad we went through it. I hope it's clear.
It has helped me because I need to make sure that if I ever do talk about the unforgiveness, I specify that it's not about our policy.
Okay.
It's about personal.
And I just want to say that, and it's just my Christian background, but regardless of, I mean, she may have had the worst policies in the world, and I mean, based upon what I've heard from people, it sounds like she did. But every person has value in what they're doing for the kingdom, and for her, it might be the activation that she's doing of people who would never have been involved otherwise. And I think that value. We don't want to discount that, even if we don't want her meddling in our state, and we don't.
Let me tell you something, and this I know. If there was a button that I could push that would guarantee Sarah Palin to live out the very best life she could live and make the very best decisions she has, I would push that button in a heartbeat. In a heartbeat. And, you know, one of the ways that I deal with my unforgiveness is I will pray, God bless Sarah Palin.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Give her
the best way to
everything
do
she
it.
needs.
Exactly.
Give her everything she needs. Give her wisdom. Bless her. Surround her with people that are good for her. Nothing but good things. And that's the way I combat unforgiveness. But it's hard.
Sure.
Because it hurt.
Oh, well, it requires humility. It requires, us to be better people.
In the same way that God can do that in Sarah Palin, she can do that in your heart as well.
Absolutely.
I mean, he can make that happen.
Absolutely. All right, this is going to be fun. We got a good debate coming up. Kathy Giesel, Harry Crawford.
Should we go back to politics now?
Running for the Senate. They're going to be in studio live debating each other. 569-1080 if you want to call in and
Can
be
I
a
say
part
it one
of
more time? Honestly,
No,
I do feel like
729 is the
Can you
time.
cut his mic, Brian?
A new $5 billion share buyback program. And the economy continued to expand in the third quarter. GDP grew at an annual rate of 3.5%, thanks in part to the biggest jump in military spending in 5 years. The economy rebounded 4.6% in the second quarter. And separately, first-time jobless claims unexpectedly rose last week by 287,000, but claims are still at historically low levels. The company has launched a device called Microsoft Band that will allow users to track their exercise and sleep. With the Fox Business Report, I'm Jolene Kent.
Warning, you must have your solar system up and running by midnight December 31st, or you'll miss out on this year's federal tax credit. Energy prices are expected to increase by as much as 40% in the near future. Go solar now, with no down payment, interest, or payments for a whole year. The door of opportunity is about to slam shut. Call 1-800-MY-SOLAR now for a free in-home assessment.
My home, my savings, 1-800-MY-SOLAR.
With KOAN News, I'm Chuck White. Alaska's U.S. Senate race may be the most expensive campaign in state history, more than $50 million. Figures from the Center for Responsive Politics indicate incumbent Senator Mark Begich has spent just over $7 million so far, while Republican challenger Dan Sullivan has spent just under $7 million. But most of the money still being spent by political groups that are not affiliated with the candidate. Anchorage police say at least one fatality resulted from a three-vehicle collision blocked the intersection, Eagle River Road and Wren Lane, early Wednesday afternoon. A former University of Alaska Anchorage employee who allegedly sent a threatening email to co-workers has pleaded guilty. As a result, Edward Du Bois faces up to 5 years in prison. Prosecutors believe he was motivated by the upcoming 5-year anniversary, the day the university fired him as credentials evaluator, which he felt ruined his career. That's your Hot Talk News update.
Partial sunshine for today, high 29. For tonight, partial clouds and cold, the low going down to 12. Mostly cloudy skies with some snow, little to no accumulation on Friday, high 30. Tomorrow night, low 23. Saturday, periods of snow, 1 to 3 inches can accumulate, high 35. Hot Talk, breaking news, and the latest weather, KOAN 95.1 FM and 1080 AM.
And I approve this message.
These negative ads are everywhere.
Yeah, I stopped listening and did my own research.
Yeah, what did you find?
Well, I found I really like Dan Sullivan.
Well, I know he's served in the Marines for 20 years, and he'll fight against President Obama and Democrats in Washington to protect my Second Amendment rights.
Yeah, and did you know when he was our Attorney General, he worked to put an end to violence against women, defended the constitutionality of Alaska's Parental Notification Initiative Act, and sued the federal government to stop Obamacare.
I like that. What else you got?
Well, as a veteran, problems plaguing Obama's VA, and he'll fight to ensure they get all the benefits they've earned.
Dan Sullivan. I'm sold.
Me too.
Dan Sullivan, a principled leader for Alaska. Dan Sullivan for U.S. Senate.
Paid for by Allen West Guardian Fund, which is responsible for the content of this advertising. AllenWestGuardianFund.com. Not authorized by any candidate or candidates committee.
Here's my good friend, Keith Montrenock.
Automotive repairs can be frustrating. Let me help. Call 349-1637. I have been in business for nearly 20 years at the same location. Specialty Truck and Auto is in South Anchorage behind the Long Branch Saloon where Diamond becomes Abbott. I have 6 ASE certified technicians working from 7 a.m. until 6 p.m. Monday through Friday. I have a voucher for any of the 6 Alaska Laser Wash locations for each customer. If you schedule ahead and need a ride when you drop your vehicle off, I may be able to help. Call Specialty Truck and Auto, 349-1637.
Gabrielle Ledoux is running for State House for all the right reasons. Her opponent is promising to do what Ledoux is already doing. Gabrielle walks her talk. She believes in results over rhetoric. Walking door to door, year after year, Gabrielle Ledoux knows that it's what local residents want that matters. As your representative, Gabrielle Ledoux continues to fight for funding for good roads and public safety. Gabrielle Ledoux fought for the local parks that we all value and that our families all use. Gabrielle Ledoux fought for responsible school funding to make sure our children are prepared to compete for jobs and for responsible economic decisions to make sure job opportunities exist.
I'm Gabrielle Ledoux. I've worked hard to represent East Anchorage and J-Bear, and I'd appreciate your continued support.
Paid for by Ledoux for State House, 8859 Cross Point Loop, Anchorage, 99504.
They came here to settle, to build a new land. In her mountains, in her valleys, in their cabins they stand. Ah, the trail of the hardy homesteader is worn. This is the country where legends are born. Hi, folks. This is Hobo Jim, and I love Alaska, and I want to see it can be proud of. That's why I'm putting my support behind Bill Walker for governor and putting Alaska first. I hope you do the same. Get out and vote. These fields you see now were broke by their plow, and their children have grown to build homes of their own. This is the country where legends are born.
Paid for by Walker and Malott for Alaska.
Hot Talk KOAN, man. You're on with Fagan and Biegel. 1080KOAN.com.
$7:36 on a Thursday morning, October 30th. 21 degrees outside in Anchorage. 19 in the Valley. Broadcasting to you on KOAN, KVNT. Also streaming live video and audio on danfagan.us. Our number, 569-1080. Happy to welcome here in the studio, running for Senate Seat N, incumbent Senator Kathy Giesel, her challenger, Harry Crawford, who also was in the legislature. What were you in the Senate ever, or just House?
No, just the House.
And that was District
21, 22.
They change every year. It seems like.
Yeah.
And now you're running against Kathy Giesel, who's the Republican. You're the Democrat. Welcome, both of you.
Thanks, Dan.
Appreciate you getting up and coming in. I just kind of a generic question for both of you before we get started here. There's so much going on politically. The U.S. Senate race, the governor's race, all the propositions, the marijuana thing. Do you feel like sometimes that and I'll let each of you answer, do you feel like that your race is, and a lot of the legislative races aren't getting the attention they deserve? Harry, I'll let you answer that first.
We do get buried somewhat by the U.S. Senate race. That is just taken precedence over seems everything. Plus the governor's race is there's a lot of money being spent there as well. So yeah, it's hard to get out there, get your message out there when all the time has been balled up.
Yeah. I would imagine even the fundraising, Senator Giesel, just everybody's fundraising, and you guys come along, and how do you compete for all the money out there?
Dan, I think you guys have talked about this on the show. This is a really important election. the choices that Alaskans make are going to set a tone for decades, frankly, because we have some things in play here that could be jeopardized. Frankly, I have had a tremendous amount of support because of my pro-business, pro-development, pro-people campaign. And so, frankly, I've had a tremendous amount of support. Yeah, it's a challenging year, but at the end of the day, it's about people.
Well, Mr. Crawford, what about that? Are you anti-business, anti-people, or?
Well, we've known each other for a long time, Dan. You know that's not the fact of the matter. I have been, pro-Alaska, and that means that we have to have a good climate for business here. So, yeah, I've had a number of bills that were incentives for industry to come here and locate here. I had a bill that was a 35% direct tax credit for any business that would locate here that used our natural resources. It was modeled after the Agrium bill that got us Agrium back 40 years ago. So that's the sort of thing that I've done, is to try to get jobs and a stable economy for Alaska.
Well, Senator Giesel, why do you believe Mr. Crawford's anti-business?
Well, we had a referendum recently in August to repeal Senate Bill 21, which was a new oil tax policy. The Democrat candidates across the board were, yes, let's repeal this bill. We need to start over. In fact, because the citizens rejected that idea of repealing that good law that we passed, we're now bringing in $200 million estimated per year. I don't know that includes the money we save, because we're no longer giving away incredible tax credits for non-production. We were facing $1 billion of tax credits we would have had to pay out this coming year under ACES. And thankfully, we're not under ACES anymore. We're under a new tax policy. So hooray. Plus, it had a manufacturing credit in it for businesses here on the ground in Alaska manufacturing oil and gas infrastructure and products.
Is the verdict down?
We'll see what happens. But, I voted against ACES when it was actually passed in the first place. I think I'm the only Democrat in the House that actually voted against ACES. And the reason why was because it was a net profits tax. We haven't even finished the audit for the first year of ACES. Now, this was a net profits tax as well. 49 other states.
SB 21 you're talking about.
Yeah. 49 other states have a simple tax on the gross, and then we don't have to go through all these very complicated audits and have to fight out what's a cost and what's a profit in the courts. And I think that simpler is always better.
Done.
So simpler and lower tax is better?
The one that I authored in the House was modeled after North Dakota. I think it was an 11% tax on the gross. So
that would be in addition to the 12.5%
royalty. Yeah, and what we have right now is a 35% tax
so
on
you think
profits.
that would have been a lower tax, and that's why you were for it. But then why were you in support of going back to ACES, which was a higher tax?
Because this was a net profits tax on steroids. What it did was it took away all the incentives for the explorers to come in here and actually explore. And
you talking about
Senate Bill 21 took away incentives for explorers, but what was the benefit to Alaska? I think we spent about $4 or $5 billion in taxes. We didn't get any new production. So what was the goal there? What were you hoping for?
The reason getting new production is because every field on the North Slope is gas challenged. We have the ability to put 8.5 billion cubic feet back into the field each day. I worked on the last expansion of the CCP. Until we have a way of dealing with that excess gas, we can't put more production into the pipeline.
Kathy, is that true? We will not get more oil into the pipeline unless we have a gas line. And which which might not happen for Tang pepper.
Oil and gas are developed together, of course. I mean, you find them together. But remember, most of these wells now, unless they are reworked, are producing mainly water. And so water handling is a significant issue up there. But that's the main purpose of moving forward expeditiously on a gas pipeline. And we've made huge steps forward in that. And to go back on that, to jeopardize that progress, is of great concern to me.
We're talking to Senator Kathy Giessel, Harry Crawford, who's the challenger. When we come back, we'll let you each ask each other a question. We'll be back with Harry Crawford and Kathy Giessel right after this. Fagan and Biegel on KOAN, KVNT. Time currently 7:44.
Votes with Barack Obama 97% of the time. Obamacare, trillions in new debt, job-killing EPA regulations. Mark Begich voted with Barack Obama for all of it. Now, Obama says,
I'm not on the ballot this fall. But make no mistake, these policies are on the ballot. Every single one of them.
A vote for Mark Begich is a vote for Obama's agenda. It's time to change.
I'm Dan Sullivan. Our country's on the wrong track. And it's Barack Obama's failed policies that put us there. There's nothing wrong with America that can't be fixed by what's right with Alaska. As your senator, I'll stand up to Barack Obama and federal overreach, unleashing Alaskan energy to create jobs, fighting wasteful spending, and strengthening America's national security while taking care of our veterans. I'm Dan Sullivan. I'm running for the U.S. Senate, and I approve this message. I'd be honored by your vote.
Paid for by Sullivan for U.S. Senate.
All my life, I've enjoyed hunting and fishing, but as I got older, it made it harder to enjoy Alaskan outdoors. Thanks to Chugach Chiropractic, I'm back on the stream enjoying Alaska.
Besides aligning the spine, we also deal with the musculature and the nervous system of the body. To do that, we not only adjust the spine, but we also balance muscles along with various therapies and deep tissue therapy. We help bring the body back to normal function.
Harry Crawford looks to be...
That's it. Your time is up.
I'm Senator Kathy. It's time to set the record straight. Only in an election year would you hear someone paint a $52 million funding increase as a cut in education funding. Only in an election year would you hear that a $2 billion cut was actually a budget increase. Only in an election year would you hear someone claim they work hard to keep your energy bills low. All the while, Harry Crawford's first vote on the Chugach Electric Board was to vote himself a raise. It's reflective of a candidate who has no record of accomplishments, no ideas, and no desire to serve you. Alaskans deserve better than that. I'm Senator Kathy Giessel, and I'll continue to do the hard work necessary to improve education outcomes, keep energy costs low, and make sure generations of Alaskans will have the jobs they need. That's my no-nonsense promise to you. Paid for by re-elected Senator Kathy Giessel, Anchorage.
When I grew up, I wanted to be a pro basketball player.
An elementary school teacher. Oh, an Olympic gymnast.
No matter what dream you choose or where you are in life, your local Country Financial representative offers helpful advice on everything from auto and home insurance to planning, education to retirement, and business insurance too, so that you can continue to grow and dream. For more information, visit countryfinancial.com or call 1-866-COUNTRY. Country Financial. Grow your own way.
Paid for by Pruitt for State House, 2954 Brittany Place, Anchorage.
Let's Pruitt for our future. We'll fight for you and me, a strong economy.
What do educators and parents say about Lance Pruitt?
As a parent, I appreciate what Lance has done for schools and sports programs in East Anchorage.
From my perspective as a high school principal, Lance Pruitt is the best choice for East Anchorage.
Lance knows our kids are Alaska's future and much more than a budget line item.
Lance Pruitt is a genuine advocate for education. He supports teachers and knows the tools they need to be effective in the classroom.
As a teacher and a mom, I know Lance is the kind of leader we need to continue to move Alaska and education forward.
I'm voting for Lance because he's someone Alaska can trust.
Lance Pruitt, a true advocate for education and East Anchorage. November 4th, re-elect Lance Pruitt.
Lance Pruitt, he will do it for our future.
You're on with Fagan and Biegel on Hot Talk KOAN. 6 to 9 a.m. The Talk of the Valley.
7:49. Dan Fagan, Glen Biegel. We have with us in the studio Harry Crawford, back from Louisiana way, and Senator Kathy Giesel. Senator Giesel is the incumbent. Harry Crawford is the challenger. It's Senate seat N. Since you're the incumbent, Senator Giesel, do you have a question for Mr. Crawford?
Sure. You know, there are numerous attack ads out there against me. Some, Mr. Crawford, from you, some from the labor unions that are heavily financing your campaign. And the most recent one says that something about, I want to change the permanent fund. I mean, where do you get that from? And what exactly do you believe is your support for the permanent fund?
Well, I don't think I've heard the commercial that you're talking about, but I did hear that you thought that the permanent fund was inherently broken and needed to be fixed, and I think that the permanent fund is doing just fine, and the dividend's doing just fine. And what the bill that I authored was to put the permanent fund dividend formula into the state constitution so that it would be there not only for today but for generations to come.
You heard somewhere?
No, we have it on video.
Your hearing is misinformed. I have always said that the permanent fund, in fact, is a significant economic stimulus for Alaska. Many people depend on that permanent fund dividend to pay their utility bills, electric bills, number one, but also house payments, children's education. My kids went to college on their permanent fund. They saved every one of them. And in fact, you voted against the permanent fund dispersals. They're in the operating budgets, and you voted against operating budgets. That's how the permanent fund money is dispersed to the corporation, who then disperses it out in dividends. So this is a completely incorrect statement, and I've had many of my constituents very confused by this. So I just want to set the record straight here. I have never said the permanent fund needed to be reworked.
That's not true. And you can look on the internet. There's a place where you're raising your paddle ones, and you did it the highest and above everybody else and before everybody else because you said it was inherently broken and needed to be fixed. I want to put the dividend in the Constitution so it's there not only for our generation but for many generations to come.
Yes, well, I would suggest that that needs to be reviewed in terms of what the question was.
Would you?
Thank you.
Would you go along, Senator, with protecting the dividend check every year and put it in the Constitution that it cannot be spent?
The permanent fund check?
Mm-hmm. The dividend check.
The dividend check. Of course.
You would support a constitutional amendment that would prohibit lawmakers from spending that money, the earnings of the fund?
From spending the amount that is going to be dispersed
Yes.
as a dividend to citizens.
Yes.
Of course.
You would support that.
This is something that, as I said, people depend on. It's a way of moving money out of government and into the private sector, and that's what we need to be doing. We need to lessen the size of government and get private sector moving. So that money can be a stimulus for a small business owner that wants to expand, for citizens who want to start a business.
So
Mr. Crawford,
the question would be, would she put the current PFD formula into the Constitution?
Locking that up where the politicians couldn't get to the...
Yeah, because right now they can appropriate any, politicians can appropriate any amount that they deem
right.
For the dividend. It could be smaller, larger.
But I thought that was the question. That's not was the question I asked.
No, the way she answered it, she left herself some wiggle room as to whether it would be the present formula or some other formula.
Would you lock the present formula in the Constitution?
I can't answer the question without exploring what the present formula is and what kind of back question he's asking. So I'm not going to answer the question yes or no. I'm not going to answer.
You know the present formula.
I don't know the present formula in terms of written down. This is how it works. We disperse 25% of it. Right. It's divided among the population, and that's the permanent fund.
And that's the formula.
That's the dividend check. Of course.
We take 50% of the earnings and average it over 5 years, and that's the dividend.
And you want to lock that into the Constitution.
Absolutely.
Would you favor that?
I don't see a problem with that.
So you would lock it into the Constitution?
I would look at the details of it. Dan, I don't commit to voting a certain way anytime. First of all, I can't do that. It's unethical of me. But I would have to see what anything like that looked like in more detail. I'd have to see the fiscal note for it. I'd have to see the ramifications of it.
Well, it would just lock in the current formula. There would be no change in fiscal policy.
If that's what he's asking, I don't trust that that's what he's. I don't trust that's what he's asking.
I don't know how else I could say it any more plainly.
Bottom line is, you want to protect the way that we send out the dividend check every year, this year and in many years that we've been doing it. You want to lock that into Constitution.
I'd have to look at that.
And what is it you don't know that you need to know?
I'd have to look at exactly what the formula was.
Well, you know the formula.
Dan, I look at every aspect of a bill before I press a red or green button. That's the way it is.
Okay.
And so before I looked, first of all, putting anything in the Constitution requires the citizens making that decision, not the legislature. Number one.
I'm asking you as a legislator if you favored it.
I would have to look at the details of it, the fiscal note, etc.
Mr. Crawford, you have a question for
we'll get to that in a second. It's just, I know the bill that I wrote. I know I don't have to look at it before I press the red or green button anymore, because I know that it's just putting the dividend into the Constitution, the formula as it presently is.
You understand the danger of what you're proposing, because if we have a fiscal crisis, the price of oil drops through the floor, and all of a sudden we are locked into giving people free money, and we've got no money to run government, you're going to have to raise taxes to pay people free money. That's the danger of your proposal. Isn't that fair?
It's only the earnings. And it's not there.
But if the government's broke because the oil prices have fallen down to $8 a barrel,
but frankly, $30 or $40 a barrel,
and we've got no money to run the state, you're literally going to have to send free checks to everybody, and you don't have the money to run the government, so you're going to have to raise taxes just to pay people free money.
So I know that the worst possible thing that we could do, it would be to cut our dividends, because it's 1/8 of our state's now, sometimes even more than that, and it helps businesses and people throughout the state. It's such an integral part of our economy. I'm not about to cut dividends. I think it's something that we need to have from here on out.
And yet you vote against the dispersal of that money every time you vote against the operating budget.
There are many things in the operating budget to vote against, and then what happens is that you have to make a decision whether the operating budget or the capital budget makes good sense. I voted against 7 out of 10 of the capital budgets in the 10 years that I was in the legislature.
Which is true. And education funding was in there, public safety funding was in there, roads.
There were many things that were good in there, but there were some stupid things.
$1.3 billion of amendments to increase the capital budget during those years. That's not a fiscal conservative.
I would think about
how many billions did I vote against in the capital budget?
When we come back, we'll have Mr. Crawford ask Ms. Giso a question. Harry Crawford, Kathy Giso in here, running for Senate District N. Fagan Biegel in the morning, KOAN, KVNT 59. And KVNT.
Mark Begich's campaign is a little sad. Begich can't run on his failed record, so he's launched false 2015 attacks. Independent fact checkers call Begich's attacks some of the most dishonest and inflammatory of the year. Why did Begich sink so low? Because for 6 years he's been a rubber stamp for Barack Obama, voting for Obama's agenda 97% of the time. Begich voted for Obamacare, wasteful spending, and trillions in debt. He stood by while Obama's overzealous EPA hurt Alaska jobs and families. And Begich has promised to fight for Anwar? After 6 years, no results. 6 years ago, we gave Mark Begich a chance. He gave us Obama's agenda and now a shameful campaign. Alaskans expect better of our leaders. It's time to make a change. American Crossroads paid for and is responsible for the content of this advertising, not authorized by any candidate or candidates committee. www.americancrossroads.org.
Not just talk. Hot talk. KOAN Anchorage. 95.1 FM. 1080 AM.
This is a Fox News Alert. I'm Lisa Brady. Late word that former Boston Mayor Thomas Menino has died. He was the city's longest-serving mayor, leading Boston through the marathon bombing.
Whatever you have to do to recover and carry on, know that the people of Boston, now I was right there by your side.
Menino was diagnosed with advanced cancer 8 months ago. He announced 1 week ago today that he was suspending treatment and a book tour to spend more time with family and friends. Former Boston Mayor Thomas Menino was 71. Emergency crews descending on an airport in Wichita, Kansas, where a small plane has just gone down.
EMS has a triage unit set in the field to the north of Bravo side.
Plumes of black smoke rising from Wichita's Mid-Continent Airport. You can see the smoke from miles around.
I'm going to use you as a go-between in case they do find any victims.
There have been early reports that the plane crashed into a building at the airport, possibly the flight safety building, but police have not confirmed details, and there is no confirmation yet of casualties. Defying a voluntary quarantine, a nurse in Maine leaves her house with a lot of reporters watching. Fox News Radio's Tanya J. Powers following this live.
Casey Hickox and her boyfriend got a little fresh air this morning, taking a bike ride while being tailed by a state trooper who's monitoring her. She tested negative for the virus after returning from West Africa, where she treated Ebola patients.
I have been told that the Attorney General's intention is to file legal action against me, and if this does occur, then I will challenge those legal actions.
State officials say they'll go to court to quarantine her for the rest of that 21-day incubation period, which will end on November 10th. Lisa.
Tanya, thanks. Differing assessments of the Ebola situation from top officials in two of the hardest-hit nations in Liberia. They say some progress is being made, but in Sierra Leone, they say the country's in a crisis situation, which is going to get worse. Fox News Radio, fair and balanced.
You've been thinking about switching to solar. Don't wait much longer or you'll miss out on this year's federal tax credit. Move quickly because the tide is turning. Solar power is becoming a threat to big energy profits. In fact, some power companies are even pushing for extra fees to make up for lost revenue. Warning, you must have your solar system up and running by midnight December 31st or you'll miss out on this year's federal tax credit. Energy prices are expected to increase by as much as 40% in the near future. Go solar now with no down payment, interest, or payments for a whole year. You can afford it because we finance. Get your government money and save big every month. Big Energy is getting nervous and the door of opportunity is about to slam shut. Paying $150 a month or more on energy bills? Then call 1-800-MY-SOLAR now for a free in-home assessment. 1-800-MY-SOLAR.
My home, my savings, 1-800-MY-SOLAR.
It's the most advanced technology available, engineered with over 200 million sensory receptors. Its all-terrain design is beautifully formed, weather-resistant, reliable, astonishingly high performance in even the most challenging of circumstances. And it is also the finest search technology in the world. There's nothing else quite like a search dog. Be part of the search. Go to searchdogfoundation.org to see how you can help.
I'm Mark Begich, running for U.S. Senate, and I approve this message. Paid for by Alaskans for Baggage.
Who will protect your privacy rights in the U.S. Senate? Dan Sullivan worked for Condoleezza Rice, one of the architects of the surveillance state. She's in Sullivan's TV ads because he helped implement her agenda that threatens Alaskans' liberty, like extending the Patriot Act that allows the government unlimited access to your personal records. And when Sullivan was with the National Security Council, the NSA authorized warrantless wiretaps of U.S. citizens. Sullivan is bankrolled by the billionaire Koch brothers, who have been manipulating the oil markets for years, driving up gas prices. And Sullivan even opposes the Stand Your Ground law that allows you to defend yourself in your own home. Only 2 candidates oppose the Patriot Act and NSA wiretapping and support Stand Your Ground. And that's Mark Begich and Libertarian Mark Fish. True Alaskans fighting the Dan Sullivan surveillance state.
If you're ready for the movies, there's just one place to go. Check out moviesacre.com. It's showtime. Movie times, reviews, and more. Get tickets, win stuff. Lots of information to explore. Great restaurants. Now you'll know just where to go. Before and after every show. Check out moviesacre.com. It's showtime.
Do you know Lynn Gaddis?
Yeah, I know Lynn Gaddis. Drove a 570cc sled to the peak of McKinley in a gall-dang blizzard.
Hey, I never did that.
I heard Lynn Gaddis skinned a rabbit with her teeth in 10 seconds flat.
That never happened.
I heard that Lynn Gaddis fights for conservative principles in state government.
Well, that's true. I'm Lynn Gaddis. I love to hunt and fish, and yes, I love to ride snow machines. But what I really love is making life better for my friends and neighbors in Wasilla by bringing common sense and conservative values to Juneau. I believe in a sustainable budget. I believe in regulatory reform and resource development. And I believe in school choice and parental rights. I'm Lynn Gaddis, and I'd appreciate your vote to keep skinning some rabbits in the state legislature.
I knew it!
Just kidding.
Paid for by committee to elect Lynn Gaddis, 1650 North Shoreline Drive, 99654.
You're on with Fagan and Biegel in the morning. Give him a call, 569-1080. KOAN.
Dan Fagan, Glen Biegel here on KOAN, KVNT. We're streaming live on danfagan.us. Our telephone number, if you'd like to ask State or Senator Kathy Giesel or her opponent Harry Crawford a question, is 569-1080. 569-1080. Last segment, we allowed Senator Giesel to ask a question of Mr. Crawford. Now, Mr. Crawford, I have such a hard time calling you Mr. I've known you so long.
Why would you?
Well, I don't know. I always try to, show the respect to the office. Mr. Crawford now has a question for Senator Giesel.
Senator, we've talked about education a number of times this campaign, and we've had a disagreement over funding, and what I have said is that we have about 600 less teachers and staff today than you came into the.
It's statewide.
I think that's really over the Anchorage school district.
Okay.
And it's a direct result of the lack of state funding for the BSA and.
Basic student allocation?
Yes.
Okay.
And I was just, I wanted to know if you have some sort of vendetta against the public school system that we have. You talk about expanding charter schools and private schools and doing vouchers for private and religious schools, but it seems to me that the huge number of Alaska's school kids, they need public schools, and that's the firm foundation that we need to build for Alaskan kids. So what's the reasoning in starving our public schools and making larger class sizes?
Glad you asked that question, because education is first last and always about the students. It's not about the number of teachers or what they're paid. But let me just clarify. Last year, 3 teachers were laid off from the Anchorage school district. 3. 1, 2, 3. Not 600. The number that Mr. Crawford cites comes from a legislative research piece that was done by Representative Guerra. The piece is very clear that these are positions, not teachers. This is a false framing of a statistic. These are positions, just numbers. They're not teachers.
So the meaning that if the teacher retired, they weren't replaced?
They are openings that were never filled.
But wouldn't that still equate 600 fewer teachers?
Not if they're custodians or IT people or support staff.
Do you know what percentage of them were actual teachers?
Actually, that's difficult to parse out, though I certainly could go through the CAFR, which is the Comprehensive Annual Financial Report.
Well, do you know, Mr. Crawford?
I don't know exactly how many were teachers, but what I do know is I've talked to a number of teachers over time, this campaign as well, that are losing their positions. And at service, they have 20 less teachers today and not one less student than they had 4 years ago.
At service alone. So we can agree that there are 600 fewer positions. What we don't agree on is how many of those were in the classroom.
But hold on. When we're talking about teachers being laid off this last year, that was a decision that the Anchorage School District made. Let's talk to the school board members about why they didn't hire back those last 3 teachers. They had enough money, both from the state and from the municipality, to hire back everyone.
What do you say to that, Mr. Crawford?
The question was not about just this last year. It was about 4 years in a row that we haven't had enough funding to continue to reach teachers.
So we have a disagreement on whether there was enough funding. Senator Giesel, you say there was. Mr. Crawford, you say there wasn't. So, Mr. Giesel, why would they lay them off if they had the money to pay them?
Very good question. Again, that's a question for the school board. I actually had a teacher say he was concerned that I was going to cut his wages. The legislature does not adjust teacher wages. That's up to the individual school districts. I also want to bring out a report that just came out, per student spending. You see Alaska down here? We're second from the highest in terms of increase in student funding.
What time period?
This is since 2008.
So we've increased what percentage?
looks like 16.4%.
That's statewide.
North Dakota, 37.6% increase.
Statewide?
This is statewide spending. Statewide spending on education. The
And
fundamental
that's because
question
of the
that is
pension.
the question,
is that because of the pension liabilities?
$2 billion went into the pension, but not since 2008. That was just this last year.
But that would be a factor in that number, wouldn't it? The pension.
We were paying hundreds of millions of dollars into the pension because of the debacle over the pension before.
You want to
we
go
put
back
the
to
$2
defined
billion.
benefits, by the way?
Absolutely. That
Well,
would,
let's take some calls, Glenn, because we've been. I know the callers want to jump in. 569-1080, 569-1080. If you want to speak with Harry Crawford, running for state Senate seat, and Kathy Kiso is the incumbent. Crystal, you're on.
Good morning, man. How are you?
Good morning.
I got a real simple question for each of your guests, and that is, how do they define a fiscal conservative?
Senator Giesel, you want to take that first?
Yes. You know, a fiscal conservative is someone that looks at how much money we've got to spend and how much, where it needs to be spent. In other words, what are the core services of government? Has been a challenge these last couple years because we have been committed to some very big spending projects, statewide libraries, university buildings, that were started during the bipartisan coalition when we had Democrats running the Senate. The spending escalated significantly, and we were committed to continue those projects. Fortunately, those are done now, and we're going to be able to ramp things back.
actually, they're not done. A fiscal conservative is a person that makes common sense based on what's the income and what's the need. And to have two different pipeline projects, one that competes against the other, you need to make a decision. You know, I believe in the large export all-Alaska gas line, always have. And there's this $330 million ASAP, I believe is what it's called, the small diameter in-state gas line. It will never be built. It'll never pencil out. And there are a number of people that say, oh, we need that as a backup. No, we don't need it as a backup. We need to get the large gas line built.
Can I hold you guys over one segment? Because I like Glen's question. Because I think it's one of the biggest issues facing the state, the divine benefit versus the 401k. Can you stay one more segment?
Sure.
You okay with that?
Absolutely.
Crawford? All right. Quick break. 8:14. Harry Crawford, Kathy Giesel here in the studio, and we'll continue with your call. Stay with us. Kathy Giesel here in the studio, and we'll continue with your call. Stay with us.
You're on with Fagan and Biegel. Give them a call, 569-1080, KOAN.
There's a lot of so-called experts out there claiming to have the key to science. Are you ready for real business advice you can trust without a fee? Then don't miss Getting Down to Business with David Weatherholt. Advice from people in the know. Technology, finance, taxes, and more. Business people helping business people take their skills and services to the next level. Getting Down to Business with David Weatherholt. Saturday from 8 to 10 a.m. on Hot Talk, KOAN, 95.1 FM and 1080 AM.
Paid for by More for Alaska, Anchorage.
Taking pride in work when it comes from the heart. Doing your best and staying the course even in tough times. Understand the value of service and sacrifice. Matt Moore is one of those. Someone who knows that paying your dues should come before office and power. That leadership, wielded by inexperienced and self-interested hands, can be destructive.
This is Matt Moore. Lance Pruitt is proud of his record. A record of not fully funding education. Budget deficits that put our permanent fund at risk, and supporting mega projects we can't afford. My father once told me, whatever you choose to do it well. That's the way our country was, the way I'd like to see it be again, where pride in work comes from actually doing an honorable job, because that's the way it ought to be.
Matt Moore, a legislator we can be proud of.
Shell V-Power Premium Gasoline removes an average of 60% of performance-robbing gunk on intake valves left by low-quality premium gasolines. And it starts with your very first tank. So when you fill up, car, engine, and performance come together to make your drive come alive. Choose Shell V-Power today.
And learn how you can save big at the pump at fuelrewards.com.
Gabe, your 2 minutes are up. Herman, your 2 minutes are up. Your 2 minutes is up.
This is Harry Crawford, and those were the actual words of Kathy Giesel during public testimony. I believe a legislator's first and most important job is to listen to you. As I go door to door, I'm hearing you say you want intelligent, realistic budgets, not the deficit budgets this legislature has passed time and time again. Now, Kathy Giesel wants to fix the permanent fund. Me, I want to set your permanent fund dividend in stone by putting it in the Alaska Constitution.
Harry Crawford's plan to constitutionalize a permanent fund will keep politicians' hands off your dividend. Harry voted against 7 capital budgets because they didn't balance. Harry Crawford sponsored the Red Stripe law that keeps problem alcohol, and Harry Crawford spearheaded the Trust the People initiative to let you elect your own U.S. senators.
Trust the people. Those are words I live by. This is Harry Crawford, and I would appreciate your vote.
Paid for by Crawford for Alaska, Anchorage.
I'm Bill Walker, candidate for governor. Sean Parnell declared an education session of the legislature, but ended up laying off teachers. He denied health insurance to thousands of Alaskans. He drove Alaska into deficit spending, and your energy costs are still sky high. My administration will make public education a funding priority. I'll act on the recommendation of the State Chamber of Commerce and other organizations by accepting Medicaid expansion so thousands of uninsured Alaskans can have basic health care coverage as long as it's fully federally funded. I'll bring Alaskans together to solve Parnell's budget deficit mess. I know what it will take to complete a gas line to benefit all of Alaska. And until that project comes online, I'll focus attention and resources on lowering your energy costs. We're nonpartisan. We're all Alaskans. Let's work together. Alaska first. It's time.
Paid for by Walker and Malott for Alaska.
Hot Talk KOAN, man. You're on with Fagan and Biegel. 1080 KOA.
All right, welcome back. 8:19 in the morning. Dan Fagan, Glen Biegel, Bonnie Cameron. We have Harry Crawford in the studio with us, running for Senate Seat N. Also, the incumbent in that seat, Senator Kathy Giessel, is here. Glenn, you had a question about defined benefits?
Yeah, we were talking about sticking the things of the permanent fund into our Constitution, and something that's already in the Constitution is that any retirement benefits that have been offered to you cannot be removed. It is constitutionally guaranteed. It's one of the reasons why our shortfall for our pension system here from the defined benefits program is such a danger to the permanent fund, because obviously they would take money from the permanent fund in order to pay off those retirement benefits. So there, I think, is a little bit of a contradiction. But I'd like to get your sense as to whether or not the state should go from its 7 or 9% retirement for public employees back to a defined benefit. Both of you.
And go ahead.
No, go ahead. You got to direct your question to somebody. Who do you want to? Do you want Harry to answer?
Well, they both need to answer it.
Okay. Go ahead first.
Absolutely, because I think we should go back to the defined benefit, because what is happening right now, because the new hires are putting their money into a 401k and not putting it into the.
We're putting our money into their 401k.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
They don't. There's no match. It's a 7 or a 9%. There's no match. It's our money that we're putting into their 401k.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you or anything. But anyway, what I wanted to say was that the taxpayers, are the people of Alaska, are putting money into the 401ks now rather than putting it into the defined benefit. And that is exacerbating the problem with the pool. Am I having a problem here?
We just want you right up close to that mic so we can pick up your voice.
We're not expanding the pool. The pool is getting ever smaller.
And we have 60,000 people in the retirement system. What number do you think we should get up to? And that's 1/10 of our population is in the retirement system for state employees.
As long as we make the proper payments each year into it, then we can get the proper payments back out of it. I remember the debates back in the early 2000s between Eldon Mulder and John Davies from Fairbanks, and John Davies said time and time again, you don't put the money into the retirement system that we owe to it now, it's going to come back and bite us in the not too distant future. And that's exactly what happened.
And you were voting when you were back in the legislature, because I think it happened in your years. Some of your years were the ones that we underfunded. You voted to put money into the retirement system to keep it shored up.
Mm-hmm.
That would have been hundreds of millions of dollars. Well, that's a good vote.
Mm-hmm.
Senator Giessel, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Senator Giessel.
You know, we made a huge accomplishment when we went to the defined contribution, something that other states are attempting to do now as well.
And just so people are clear,
the 401k, it's a 401k program where the employee is now the owner of their retirement, and they can take this with them to their next job, just like any private sector.
This is what we changed to.
It's what we changed
and the
to.
defined benefits is what we had lived under for many years, which is a pension type plan.
It is.
Okay. I just wanted to clarify that for
Thank
the
you.
listeners. Yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate that. we have a different workforce now, number one. We have young people coming into the workforce that are not interested in a 45, 30-year, whatever people work. I don't know, I'm going to be working well into my 70s, but people change jobs rapidly, and they want to be able to move around. They're not committing to work for a lifetime to the state of Alaska or become a bureaucrat. And so it's actually something that's portable for them, in addition to the fact that, frankly, now they're managing it themselves, and it's not a government role. So I'm all for personal responsibility.
But you don't think, Senator Giesel, that an individual, even in their 20s, would look at a pension plan, which is guaranteed, and a 401k plan, which there's risk, and say, oh, no, I want the 401k plan. Wouldn't anyone who could get the pension plan go with the pension plan?
I can't speak for what individuals would do, but I do know
Doesn't
young
that
people.
make sense?
But I know young people, and they want something that they can take to another job
Well, they'll still
if they
get to keep
decide
their
to
pension.
move.
And
If they're
they'll-
vested in it,
Yeah.
that's right.
But you don't have to work that long to be vested. So it's not like they're going to lose their pension if they move. I guess the argument
And
that
they're
the
not
pension is
contributing to it anymore when they leave the job
Right, I understand
either.
that, but
So that argument breaks down
But
if
the
you've got a
argument-
mobile task force.
But
or
the argument
workforce.
that the pension isn't preferable, I don't think that holds water, do you? I think most
It's
people
not
would love a
preferable
pension.
to someone that's managing the economics of it. That's a fact. And
Oh, no, I
know,
agree with that.
And
But to the individual.
And to the individual who is not looking to work for the state of Alaska for a lifetime, I had a staff person who had her own private business here in Anchorage. She actually quit my office to go back to the private sector to actually expand her business. Bravo to her.
569-1080. David, you're on with Kathy Giesel and Harry Crawford.
Yes, I have a question for them both. But first, I want to clarify something. This quote about losing 600 teachers across. By the way, Mr. Crawford, it's across the entire state. These were projections by all the school districts on what staff they would lose, not just teachers. And Senator Giesel is correct. Anchorage School District only lost, by choice, 3 teachers this year. Now, my question is, as you both know, the best way to improve a child's education is to have an effective teacher in every classroom. My question is, how do we improve the quality of the teaching workforce? Thank you. And I'll listen off the air.
Senator Giesel.
You know, what this comes back to is the fact that our outcomes are not what they need to be. When we're dead last in 4th grade reading competency, that's a huge concern. So we've tried all these different curriculum. I believe that the teacher in the classroom knows how best to teach, and we have hampered that classroom teacher by requiring certain testing, requiring certain education curricula, and I believe those classroom teachers need to be freed up to choose what's best for their students, because it is about the kids.
Mr. Crawford?
We need to have peer evaluation of every teacher every year to make sure that they're doing the best job that they can, and those that aren't doing as well as they should need to go to extra training or remediation to help them.
How would that peer evaluation work? Would it be their fellow teachers?
Well, what you do is I mean, we had a program for a short time where they had master teachers from around the state go and sit in the classrooms and help the teachers and see where their shortfalls were, see where they were doing well, and help them get to be better teachers. And that's the sort of thing that we need to do, is be able to have evaluations by people that are knowledgeable about what are the best teaching methods and how to get the kids.
Question, we're running out of time. Question for both of you. We'll let Mr. Crawford go first. Anything you admire about Senator Giesel?
I want to get back to the defined benefit,
Okay,
if I could, just for a second. Here in Alaska, we're in a different position than most places because we don't have Social Security for people that are public school
We're the only state in the country.
No, there's 7 of us that don't pay into Social Security for our public employees and teachers. And so if you have a 401k, you run through for whatever reason, if you have some sort of medical problem or something, and you run through your retirement savings account, there's no safety net for you here. The only thing that other people have that have spent a lifetime working is Social Security, and we don't have that here. So it's unconscionable to let them hang out to dry like that.
If someone spends their whole life working
your question.
If somebody works their whole life for the state and they run through their pension plan, there's no safety net. There's no Social Security.
And they voted to opt out of Social Security
but
themselves.
I just want to make sure that's no dispute. Real quick, what do you admire about Kathy Giesel? Just real quick.
I guess her stridency.
Okay. What do you admire about Harry Crawford?
Harry Crawford is very persistent. He's run for office numerous times against many women. So I guess I'm just another one.
You don't think that's intentional? That he goes out?
I don't know.
Okay. Harry Crawford, Senator Kathy Giesel, thank you guys both so much for getting up early and coming in.
Sure. Thanks,
Thank you. Fagan Biegel, back in a minute, 8:29.
Fagan and Biegel on Hot Talk KOAN and online at 1080KOAN.com.
Local news brought to you by Jansen Funeral Homes, Jansen's Evergreen Memorial Chapel, Jansen's Alaska Cremation Center, and Jansen's Eagle River Funeral Home. Jansen Funeral Homes, where just like family, they're there when you need them.
With KOAN News, I'm Chuck White. Some figures are coming in from the Alaska State Fair, and Kenda has the latest.
The 2014 State Fair in Palmer from August 21st to September 1st attracted 293,827 people, up more than 4,300 from the previous year. Fair officials say the great weather certainly helped. Concert ticket sales were down a little from 2013, but still strong. The top sales were for 3 Days Grace, Pentatonics, and Thompson Square. The 2015 State Fair has been set for August 27th to September 7th.
Anchorage Mayor Dan Sullivan has vetoed a ban on metal palisade fences. Supporters of the ban said moose were getting killed. They tried to jump over the fences and didn't make it. As he vetoed the measure, the local mayor called the ban governmental intrusion that is not warranted. That's your Hot Talk News update. Local weather is next.
Partial sunshine for today, high 29. For tonight, partial clouds and cold, the low going down to 12. Mostly cloudy skies with some snow, little to no accumulation on Friday, high 30. Tomorrow night, low 23. Saturday, periods of snow, 1 to 3 inches can accumulate, high 35. Hot Talk, breaking news, and the latest weather, KOAN 95.1 FM and 1080 AM.
Hey, folks, this is Chris and Brock from The Beer Show. Make sure to listen to us every Saturday at 5 p.m. on 95.1 and 1080 KOAN.
The Beer Show is brought to you proudly every single week by Humpy's Great Alaska Nail House, Brown Jug Alaska, Great Artisan Variation. Always drink responsibly.
Makes sense.
A better life with Dr. Sanjay Gupta.
Food is the best medicine to keep your vision crisp and clear. I'm Dr. Sanjay Gupta, CNN's chief medical correspondent. Millions of people in their 40s and 50s begin to notice their eyesight starting to decline. It gets a little blurry. Sometimes dark spots begin to appear. Eat these foods to slow down, even prevent this process. Carrots, sweet potatoes, spinach. There are a few foods packed with beta-carotene, which helps preserve your vision. But the medicine for your eyes are foods that are rich in omega-3 fatty acids. And the numbers speak for themselves. Just one serving of fish a week reduces your risk of the most common vision problem by about 30%. 1 tablespoon of olive oil a day drops your risk of blurry vision by half. These foods protect the eye much in the same way that they protect the heart. The omega-3 reduces inflammation in the eye and keeps the arteries and blood vessels healthy. I'm Dr. Sanjay Gupta, helping you live a better life.
Dun, 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 dun.
Dad, what are you doing in my cape?
I'm not Dad. I'm Safety Man.
Any parent can be a safety hero. It just takes a few simple steps. Start by replacing older smoke alarms with Kidde worry-free alarms. The 10-year sealed-in lithium battery means these alarms are always on. No low battery chirps and no battery replacement for 10 years. And Kidde makes it simple to choose the right alarm for the right location. Help make fire safety worry-free and give back the cape. Kidde worry-free alarms available at the Home Depot.
Did you know up to 1 in 5 Americans will get the flu this year? Because less than half of us get vaccinated? You didn't know? That's okay. We do. Rite Aid has certified immunizing pharmacists at the ready to discuss your risks, answer your questions, and shield you from what you don't know. So get your flu shot, no appointment necessary, at Rite Aid today. With us, it's personal. Flu vaccines available while supplies last. Age restrictions apply in some states. See pharmacist for details.
When Malarkey Mark Begich ran for U.S. Senator, he made a lot of claims about his record as Anchorage mayor. Begich knew the truth wouldn't come to light before the election. But now, history is caught up with Malarkey Mark. Under Begich, Anchorage taxes went up 27%. Under Begich, the city budget ballooned, a $142 million increase in spending. Under Begich, the city was saddled with unprecedented 5-year union contracts. Under Begich, a deficit of over $20 million was left for the next mayor to deal with. Begich left Anchorage in serious trouble. Alaska's Energy, America's Values paid for and is responsible for the content of this advertising. It's time to replace Malarkey Mark with U.S. Senator Dan Sullivan. Not authorized by any candidate or candidates committee. EnergyandValues.com.
Why is A&A the shop, Alaska's independent Subaru specialist? How have they been voted the best shop in Anchorage not once but 6 times? Well, it's pretty simple. They offer the best warranty in the business. If they work on your Subaru, you're going to get a 3-year, 36,000-mile warranty on both parts and labor. That's unheard of. A&A The Shop deals exclusively with Subarus, and they also offer $35 oil changes. All their technicians are ASE certified. Call A&A The Shop for an appointment. 562-3919 in Anchorage and 696-209.
Representative Gabrielle Ledoux's opponent says she is opposed to negative ads and intends to run a positive campaign. But she's mailing dishonest attack after dishonest attack against Representative Ledoux. Lori Hummel says Ledoux voted to kill a tax credit for veterans. The truth is, Ledoux supported the veterans tax credit. Hummel is now blaming Ledoux for the National Guard scandal, a deplorable use of a sad situation for political purposes. Who knows what Hummel will say next?
My name is Bonnie Bausch. I've known Gabrielle Ledoux since I was a child. My mother always said East Anchorage didn't have a voice in the legislature until Gabrielle Ledoux was elected. Gabrielle is for the people. Everyone matters to her. Gabrielle Ledoux is doing a great job for East Anchorage and Jay Bear. And to say anything other than that would be a lie.
On November 4th, re-elect Gabrielle Ledoux. Paid for by Ledoux for House, 8859 Cross Point Loop, Anchorage.
You're on with Fagan and Biegel on Hot Talk KOAN and online at 1080KOAN.com.
8:36. Dan Fagan, Glen Biegel, Bonnie Cameron off today. Bethany Markham filling in for her, broadcasting on KOAN, KVNT, streaming live video and audio on danfagan.us. Our number 569-1080. Over at Chugach Chiropractic, they're all about making you healthier, living a healthier life, a more pain-free life, educating you about your body, what it does and does not do well. Dr. Myron Swigert is an amazing fellow. We've had on the show. He's very brilliant, and he will educate you on things you had no idea of, and you'll leave there healthier, happier, with more energy. He'll help you lose weight. They have great massage therapists there. Chugach Chiropractic. Give them a call. Make an appointment. I can promise you, you'll come away very glad you did. Here's the number, 694-9224. If you're experiencing any kind of pain whatsoever, go see Dr. Swigert. 694-9224. Chugach Chiropractic. I always love the off-topic questions. I thought it was very interesting asking Harry Crawford and Kathy Giesel, what they admired about each other. I didn't get the sense that there was much they admired about each other.
No, they were kind of general with that, weren't they?
What did Crawford say? Persistence?
Well, it took him quite a while to answer.
Yeah. And then Giesel.
No, Giesel said persistence.
Okay, he said something. It was
He
some
said
word.
stridency.
Stridency.
Which is not not something you want to be.
Is
Strident.
That's like rigid, right? No, not conforming, not flexible. Strident would be not flexible.
No, strident is overbearing, uncompromising, kind of rude. If a strident person, it is nothing you ever want to be called in public.
Definition is loud, harsh, and grating.
That's his compliment. Yeah, she's loud, harsh, and
It
grating.
says in a particularly unpleasant and
Dan,
forceful way.
the thing I like most about you is your strident.
Thank you. And then,
That is
and
a
then,
little odd, isn't
and then she throws out, well, he runs against women. What's that?
Wow.
It's like, and I had that caller on that. I said, wait a minute now. Are you saying this by intention?
Well,
I don't know. It's what happens.
Well, if you look at it, he wants to win too, so he wants to beat women.
Oh, my
Just
goodness.
kidding. I was joking with Bethany about that.
Here's the commercial. Why is Harry Crawford want to beat
women?
Harry Crawford is responsible for the largest, most shocking upset in political history in the state of Alaska.
Really?
He beat Ramona Barnes, who was an absolute icon. Speaker of the House, ran everything down in Juneau, and he came from nowhere and he beat her. It was the biggest shock in
And
history.
how did that happen? I'm curious as far as the politics behind it.
It was redistricting. I'm pretty sure that was a part
It was
of it.
redistricting?
Yeah,
No,
but-
I don't
but
think that
I think
district
her
was.
health had declined.
Well, that was true, but her district was not redistricted that year. But her health, she didn't get out and campaign much. She took it for granted. He worked that neighborhood,
Oh,
endlessly.
end.
It
Reminds
wasn't-
me of On It.
Yeah, and
So he just door to door?
she took it for granted. He went out and hustled. She lost. But it was so shocking because she's just one of these power brokers.
Mm-hmm.
You never thought.
I wasn't following things a whole lot back then, but I heard that there was a similar exclamation by people whenever Mike Dunleavy beat Linda Menard, that she was apparently an icon and well known and that kind of thing. So the people were.
I don't think that's
No?
the big.
Okay.
I mean, look, Ramona Barnes ran the state.
See, I didn't.
She
pay
was
attention at all
such
back then. I
a
don't know who
fixture
she
down
was.
there.
Was she? Okay.
Oh yeah, it was ridiculous. I mean, Linda Menard
Ridiculous
was never
in a bad way?
player. Well, no, she's just a power broker.
Okay.
And she was very forceful and bullied people and Linda Menard was never that much of a player. She's never in leadership. She's Speaker of the House. Ramona Barnes was.
It was a very nice feather in the cap to see a moderate beaten by a conservative in a conservative area of the state. It's really one of the biggest errors.
You're talking about the other.
Oh, you're talking about Linda Menard.
Linda Menard, and
Yeah.
I mean, it's one of the biggest errors people make is that it doesn't matter if they have a conservative area, like Culver might win now, and he's a big union guy, that the conservative areas of the state have to send down
The
conservatives.
most conservative, yeah.
Because if they don't, it absolutely undercuts, grants so much power to Gary Stevens
There'll be no
and Bert
conservatives at all
Stedman
then. Yeah.
because they are ready to jump onto the Democrat bandwagon at the drop of a hat.
Well, that's
So
the whole
it's
Eric
really-
Cantor, Dave Bratt thing. I mean, that was why that was such a big upset. Again, somebody who was one of the most powerful members.
Yeah.
Who's Culver running against now? Didn't he already beat the?
He already won the primary. I tried to get Conservative Patriots Group actually to run a write-in campaign. They said, no. I said, nah, that doesn't really sound like what we ought to be doing. If we're going to win the next election. But yeah, he's basically, he was a Democrat. He signed up as a Republican.
He's donated to Obama.
Yeah,
just a right
so it's going to be a disaster, but it's from one of the most conservative areas of the state. So they had three Republicans, I think, running the primary.
So we canceled each other out.
Exactly.
He won 37% of the vote, and I mean, honestly,
Now, why is it that because Democrats never.
No.
Why can't we? Why couldn't? Who were the two conservatives that canceled each other out?
Well, there were.
Feige was in, but he was not a conservative
He was
either.
a moderate Republican. More so.
And who was the conservative?
George Rauscher.
That's right.
So why did these two guys get together and flip a coin?
Well, they're very different.
They don't
They're
agree.
very different.
They don't agree.
So there
with
was
each
really
other.
only one conservative.
There was only one conservative, and he wasn't well funded.
One moderate and
Culver
one
had
Democrat.
a huge amount of money.
Because of labor union.
Because
Yes.
of union support, exactly. Yep, and so we split the vote on the right, and the left all voted for the Democrat,
yeah.
who had an R by his name.
And it's just like what's happening in the governor's race.
That's right.
Well, that's not the same one. It's
Yeah.
Parnell, but 569-1080. Tom, you're on.
Good morning.
Good morning.
That was a great debate between Kathy Giesel and Harry Crawford. I really enjoyed it, guys. And
good.
A couple of things. You said that Harry beat Ramona because she just took it for granted. Where Kathy Giesel, I've never seen her take anything for granted.
Very true.
She just keeps working.
Yes.
And I think the most telling thing was Harry said he could vote for a bill because he knows what's in it. He doesn't need to read it. And how many thousand times has somebody looked back and says, oh, my God, something was inserted at the last minute and I didn't read the bill.
Right.
I mean, if you don't read the bills, you aren't doing your job, and you absolutely have no place in Juneau. Harry's a nice guy. If I was going to go have a cup of coffee with somebody, Harry would be a nice guy to do that with. You could discuss things. But I want somebody that's going to go down there and work.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
Kathy Giesel has been described as the hardest working person in Juneau over and over. And, so...
I want to go one step
Why-
further,
why
by the
would
way.
anybody
I
want-
want to give my take on Kathy Giesel
Okay.
down in Juneau when we come back.
Okay.
Hey, Tom, thanks for the call.
Thank you. Have a good
Because
day.
hardworking doesn't mean anything to anybody. I will give you exactly who Kathy Giesel and what she means to Juneau when we come back.
844, Fagan Biegel. Bonnie's out today. Bethany Markham's in for her. We're on KOAN, KVNT, 844. Or we're on KOAN, KVNT, 844.
Don't just sit there. Give them a call. 569-1080. Join the conversation. KOAN.
If you're ready for the movies, there's just one place to go. Check out moviesacre.com. It's showtime. Movie times, previews, and more. Get tickets, win stuff. Lots of information to explore. Great restaurants. Now you'll know just where to go. Before and after every show. Check out moviesacre.com. It's showtime.
Harry Crawford looks to be...
That's it. Your time is up.
I'm Senator Kathy Giesel. It's time to set the record straight. Only in an election year would you hear someone paint a $52 million funding increase as a cut in education funding. Only in an election year would you hear that a $2 billion cut was actually a budget increase. Only in an election year would you hear someone claim they work hard. All the while, Harry Crawford's first vote on the Chugach Electric Board was to vote himself a raise. It's reflective of a candidate who has no record of accomplishments, no ideas, and no desire to serve you. Alaskans deserve better than that. I'm Senator Kathy Giesel, and I'll continue to do the hard work necessary to improve education outcomes, keep energy costs low, and make sure generations of Alaskans will have the jobs they need. That's my no-nonsense promise to you. Paid for by re-elect Senator Kathy Giesel, Anchorage.
Hello, this is Forrest Dunbar, and I'm running for U.S. Congress. You might know me as that run, Forrest, run guy, and that's okay. I try not to take myself too seriously. But the issues facing Alaska are serious. It's a problem that our current representative has so many ethics violations because that has cost Alaska our influence in Washington, D.C. Alaska needs more ethical and effective representation. My name is Forrest Dunbar. I approve this message, and I'm asking for your vote in November. Thank you, and God bless.
Paid for by Friends of Forrest Dunbar.
I'm Mark Begich, running for U.S. Senate, and I approve this message. Paid for by Alaskans for Begich.
Who will protect your privacy rights in the U.S. Senate? Dan Sullivan worked for Condoleezza Rice, one of the architects of the surveillance state. She's in Sullivan's TV ads because he helped implement her agenda that threatens Alaskans' liberty, like extending the Patriot Act that allows the government unlimited access to your personal records. And when Sullivan was with the National Security Council, the NSA authorized warrantless wiretaps of U.S. citizens. Sullivan is bankrolled by the billionaire Koch brothers, who have been manipulating the oil markets for years, driving up gas prices. And Sullivan even opposes the Stand Your Ground law that allows you to defend yourself in your own home. Only 2 candidates oppose the Patriot Act and NSA wiretapping and support Stand Your Ground. And that's Mark Begich and Libertarian Mark Fish. True Alaskans fighting the Dan Sullivan surveillance state.
Paid for by Gruenberg for State House Committee, Anchorage.
Energy and commitment for Northeast Anchorage. That's Max Gruenberg. For us, he's the next best thing to being a legislator ourselves.
Hi, I'm Max Gruenberg. I'm proud to represent you in the Alaska Legislature, and I'm proud of what we've done together. I go to our community councils, to our schools, and to your doors. When you speak, I listen.
When I asked you to protect our elders, you passed the Silver Alert Bill. That will help us locate missing seniors and other vulnerable adults.
When I asked you to make our streets safer, you authored the laws that prohibited viewing DVDs and texting while driving, and got funding to build a new sidewalk on Boniface.
And Max helped us get 2 new fire stations and a rescue boat in Cook Inlet.
And when we wanted to be sure there was a warm place for our pets at the animal shelter, you helped make it happen.
I'm Max Gruenberg. I'd like you and your pets' support on November 4.
You're on with Fagan and Biegel. You're on with Fagan and Biegel in the morning on the Talk of the Valley, KVNT.
Well, just 10 minutes left in the broadcast, about 11 minutes left in the Fagan Biegel Show on KOAN KVNT. Our number, 569-1080, 569-1080.
Thanks for doing my roof and also for putting up the basketball hoop. I appreciate you. Bonnie Hembry. I mean, these guys just do everything. They're amazing.
Basketball hoop. That's
yeah,
awesome.
They went back. They fixed a soffit cover that they didn't have anything to do with. I mean, they really just do everything. 345-5555. Their name, Earhart Roofing, E-A-R-H-A-R-T. And when you think roofing, I hope you think about Earhart.
569-1080. Let's go. Doyle. Doyle, you're on.
Hey, Dan and Glenn, I'm glad to find you guys.
Yay.
Oh, yeah. Is this the first time you found the show?
Yeah.
How'd you find us?
Flipping through the channel.
Really?
The old-fashioned way.
Well, now, whose voice did you recognize?
Both of yours.
Right.
Do me a favor, Doyle. Tell your friends and neighbors.
I will. Hey, so, I was around when Ramona Barnes was a big political person. And she just she became arrogant.
Yeah, there was some of that.
And so, but Kathy Giesel, let me tell you something. Kathy Giesel, I don't like to pay taxes. If Kathy Giesel said, hey, we need to pay for something, I would believe her, and I probably wouldn't complain as much.
Yeah.
And here's the difference between her and Harry Crawford. Kathy Giesel tries to do things that are good. Harry Crawford tries to do things that look good. And there's a huge difference. And on the 2 Yes board, it has been a reign of terror. And so that's all I have to say.
Harry Crawford's on the Chugach board, right?
Well,
yeah, he is on the Chugach
He was one of the ones that was for the wind power and everything else. And I mean, pie in the sky, and it looks good, and it's politically correct. That just
and it
doesn't
raises
work
our prices
anymore.
and doesn't do a doggone thing and transferred a whole bunch of money from the public sector over to native corporations.
Yeah. So, yeah, but I have to say, Kathy Giesel, I don't like very many politicians, but I love her.
Yeah, she's good. She's a good politician.
I wanted to, thanks, I appreciate it.
Thank you, Doyle. 569-1080. 569-1080. Let's go to Bruce. Bruce, you're on.
Hey, good morning.
Morning.
Sorry, I missed the call. I missed the opportunity to call when they were actually on the air, but I wanted to inquire on their thoughts of small business, especially on their voting record with NFIB. I know I looked at his record when he was in the session in 2007 and 8. It's 56%. And Kathy Giesel has been 100% with us.
NFIB is?
The National Federation of Independent Business, the only organization working exclusively for small business at the state and federal level.
Haven't they done a lot to really push back on Obamacare as well, Bruce?
They were the only organization to stand up in the Supreme Court and say it was unconstitutional to force someone to buy something or make them pay a penalty.
Wow.
Yeah. We won the argument, but then Justice Roberts, he went out of his way to call it a tax. So, yeah.
So you looked at both of Giesel and Crawford's record, and you say Crawford has a much better record for small businesses?
No. Kathy Giesel's got 100%.
Oh, that's what I meant to say.
Yeah, and Harry Crawford, he's 56. In fact, Harry supported the legislation that would require an independent contractor to buy workers' comp on themselves, not their employees, on their own body. So I really wanted to get in and ask him that question, why he did that.
Did you hear the caller? We had Begich on here yesterday. There was a gal who called up. She said she had a small business. I don't remember how much she said. Was it 50? She had 48 employees. She was terrified of going over 50 because she knew that Obamacare would get her. So she's literally not hiring people because of Obamacare.
Yep, people are doing that. They're putting their business on ice. They're looking around for options. In fact, we're under attack. There's a Resolution 54. You can look it up. 3 unions got together to demand some redefinitions in Obamacare. They want to see 20 hours be a full-time work week, and they want to see the mandate fall on employers with 5 or more.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So the fight is not over.
Well, keep up the fight, Bruce.
Thank you. We will.
Thank you.
Yeah, people always say, "Oh, this legislator's hardworking," and to me, that is just a phrase which either could be good, it could be bad, but for most people, it just doesn't mean anything. This is what Kathy Giesel means to the legislature, in my view. She is more important than the governor for making the case for good legislation. She puts in more work than his entire team. Every commissioner, every person who is employed, the tens of thousands of people who work for our state government, do not hold a candle to Kathy Giesel.
She makes herself an expert on the issues that she takes on. She really does.
She's amazing. I have been to 4 different presentations by Kathy Giesel. She is the one who educated me on Senate Bill 21. She is the one who educated me on gas line stuff. She is the one who educates. She's the amazing person. She's not a hard worker. She's not the hardest working person. She may be the only one who counts. That's the most amazing thing about it.
You know, you made a great observation about me, and I always hate going back to things in the show because people are confused because we got a whole new audience now. But you made a great observation about me and how I talk about forgiveness and I use it incorrectly. You were dead right, but I have an observation about you.
Yes.
Oh, here we go.
It's a compliment. No, it's a compliment. It's a compliment. You are such a passionate man.
Oh, he is.
And you're not around leftists much. No, he's not.
No, you're right.
And I can see, just sitting next to Harry Crawford, just sitting in close proximity to him.
He's never been into the booth before, but I noticed he came in. I mean,
and I know when we parade some of these leftists in, you are like in intense mode like I've never seen. And like just after they leave, when you start talking, you have such an intensity to you.
Yeah.
You really believe in this thing, don't you? I mean, you're in on this. You're sold out. This is not a game for you.
Yeah.
This is a life's mission. The idea that freedom trumps control. The idea that the free market is better than government control. I mean, you are completely sold out to that.
Yeah.
And when you get around people who are anti-freedom, which Harry Crawford is, and Matt Claiman is, all these guys, they're anti-freedom. They don't trust people. They're elitists. It absolutely does something to you physically.
Yeah, I guess I could feel the energy in Glenn. He was just fired up with it.
Well, it was funny because we had some off-air discussions, and you're right. I'm not around people who are true leftists. You know, they're because I see, the interaction of special interests in government is so dangerous. I don't want anything from government other than I don't want you to be able to strip my religion from me, or my right to speak, or my right to have a business, or my right to move. I just want government to leave me alone as much as absolutely possible. That's my only special interest. But for people who live, eat, sleep, and breathe special interests, and so I actually asked Harry Crawford. He's on the board at Chugach Electric, and I said, when you make these decisions, first of all, do you know how much the average employee is paid? He didn't. I take him at his word for that, but he should if he runs the organization. I said, how do you make a decision for this organization, which is going to cost me an enormous amount of money because I pay, you're my monopoly. How do you make a decision that looks after both me and people who you see as, people who elected you? And, when he went on this discussion, and it basically said, I just look to give people the lowest electrical costs to the most people. And obviously it's a talking point because he's never confronted the idea that he's not doing that. The very one thing that he could give me as an answer, he's absolutely not doing. He is harming the average people, and many people can't afford these electric
Well, Glenn,
bills.
do you think it's a coincidence that the unions funded his campaign to run for Senate?
No, it's not a coincidence. And
he
you're right.
gave them whatever they wanted.
You're absolutely
and now
right.
he gets to run for office.
I don't get these people. I don't mix with them. I don't associate with them. It does anger me, and it's very difficult for me to restrain myself. Like when he starts answering a question, I know what he said was wrong. I can't help but correct.
If Begich was in the room yesterday, I think you might have swung at him.
You might
No, I would never
You were
swing
pretty
at him.
upset.
Look, Begich, by the way, you can never beat an argument because he's just going to give you the 1% of the time that he's right.
Well, and he is a likable person,
right?
Regardless of his views.
And that's basically what he did. The Republican talking points. Oh no, there was a farm bill, one of the thousands of bills that went before, that we actually did allow a limited number of.
We're going to get a bottle of whiskey tomorrow because we've got Matt Clayman coming in.
Yeah.
No, I'll be good. I'll be good.
See you tomorrow, folks. Matt Clayman coming in.
Yeah.
No, I'll be good. I'll be good.
See you tomorrow, folks.
And that's a wrap. Thanks for tuning in to Fagan and Biegel in the morning. Be sure to catch them every weekday morning from 6 to 9 a.m. on Hot Talk KOAN 95.1 FM, 1080 a.m. and online at 1080koan.com.